A disabled child was abandoned and sold into slavery. A damaged nerve made the boy always smile. A slave-obsessed man bought the child. The ambitious father sold his son to the arena to create the strongest slave. Despite being hopeless, he survived and became a fearsome warrior until overhearing voices above while working. Two young men arrived at the scene. Tao Xuan lured his junior to gamble, then secretly stole his tuition money. The boy was shocked as he threw the money bag onto the table in challenge. That money was the hard-earned labor of his parents. Even his trusting little sister would be disappointed. He angrily questioned why he followed that senior. A giant northern prisoner with a spiked weapon entered the arena. The crowd roared with excitement. But this wasn't the fighter they had bet on. Tao Quan shouted a bet for Happy Face, confusing William with such a weak-sounding name. Looking down, William grew even more worried. This was a death match, not a game. William grew increasingly tense. The warrior was completely naked without armor. He shouted that the man didn't look like a fighter. The man had no aura or weapon, as if waiting to die. The crowd mocked William while the bald man raged and charged with his mace. The strike knocked the opponent trembling to the ground. William cried out in panic. He urged the boy to pick up a weapon to defend himself. Partly, he was worried about his bet money. The bald man rushed again, eager to finish it. But Happy Face kept smiling amid danger. William thought the boy had blocked the blow. Happy spun swiftly and kicked the opponent's face. The stands erupted in cheers. The next strike completely defeated the bald man. The rapid blows left him no chance to fight back. The battle turned one-sided. In the end, Happy Face won. William was stunned that his chosen fighter had won, and the manager gave the prize. But the prize was only one coin, shocking him. William realized Tu Xuan had tricked him. Happy's fight was just a show match with near-certain victory. He returned the tuition money and mocked William's cowardice. The next battles were as brutal as William had imagined. He left the place after a few minutes. Then he returned to the academy to pay tuition. Though life went back to normal, Happy's image haunted William's dreams. In the morning, he tiredly sought out Tu Xuan, startling him. William suggested going back to the arena today. At dawn, Deathbringer woke with chest pain and heard a prisoner teasing him to warm up. He glanced toward the voice. Seeing Faith training, Deathbringer was about to speak when a burly man interrupted, saying Faith held back in fights to entertain the crowd. Deathbringer sneered in disdain. He claimed it was just carelessness that let the kick land, otherwise the outcome would differ. The burly man cut him off, taunting that he'd be dead if that were true. Deathbringer frowned and snorted coldly. The man pointed at a corpse being dragged away, mocking that Deathbringer nearly joined it, angering him further though the man kept provoking. Then Happy laughed, inviting them to fight in the ring. The man instantly knelt in submission, shocking Deathbringer. He turned around. All the prisoners bowed silently, making him wonder if Happy was their leader. He boasted that they feared him because he once lost to Happy, but that victory was mere luck. Observing around, he judged the prisoners as weaklings. A deep male voice called Happy, asking why he was sold into this hell. Happy calmly said he'd been sold since birth, shocking Deathbringer. Happy confirmed this place raised him and taught him to fight. Deathbringer doubted why others still feared him. Happy laughed, then nervously corrected himself. In a flash, Happy's shirt was torn apart. His scarred, muscular body was revealed, yet he smiled innocently and coldly said everyone here was already dead. Deathbringer's eyes flickered with confusion. Happy continued, saying no one strong enough remained to train or fight him, only new recruits. He slowly reached out his hand. Deathbringer immediately became alert, his body tensed by reflex. But Happy merely touched his shoulder, whispered, and patted his head, saying he needed to assess the newcomers. He confessed he had faked injury to excite the crowd and his opponents. The words stunned Deathbringer, striking his pride. He recalled the fight when Happy smiled under a fatal blow. It turned out the entire match was Happy's act, not Deathbringer's true strength. Fear rose as he trembled, wondering if he was being mocked. Happy gently placed a hand on his shoulder and walked away with a bright smile. He calmly said there was no need to fight during rest, as everyone would die in this arena anyway. Deathbringer trembled with tears streaming, trying to speak. Happy suddenly raised his fist, but the punch was aimed at a nearby straw dummy. The dummy shattered into pieces. Deathbringer panicked and knelt, while a man beside whispered that every newcomer felt the same fear. Meanwhile, William held an arena ticket showing a strange name, Tickstein. He wondered whose ticket it was, noticing its unusual color. A friend patted his shoulder, telling him to use it to place a bet instead. The friend said it was his own betting ticket and gave William full authority. But William only wanted to watch Happy fight again, not gamble, and joined the line entering the arena. Elsewhere in the gravedigger's house, the old man carried a shovel, calling his apprentice to go collect corpses from the Lucasden arena. Saga quickly agreed and followed. Upon arrival, they saw piles of bodies, shocking the old man with the battle's scale. Saga reassured him he would handle the cleanup neatly, pleasing the elder. The old man thought to himself, the new apprentice was truly reliable. Beneath the stands, Saga carefully lifted bodies onto the cart. He bent down to examine a corpse's hand. Then he closely inspected several other bodies. Yet another corpse was examined, Saga began noticing something strange. All the wounds looked identical. Their shape and position showed they were caused by bare hands. But he realized those were old wounds, not from the final battle. Saga wondered why, since weapons were allowed, yet all injuries came from fists. While thinking, he heard the old man's urgent call. He ran over to ask what happened. The old man looked horrified at a corpse resembling a royal, matching one from a missing person flyer. He took out the flyer to compare, finding the features matched despite the hair and brows being plucked. Furious, he cursed, realizing the missing royal was now just a corpse from the arena, then handed the flyer to Saga. Saga examined it closely and vowed to inform the Lord and the church. The old man quickly stopped him, fearing the trouble would endanger them both. The old man advised Saga that the king wouldn't believe them and might accuse them of selling royal hair. He suggested hiding the truth to stay alive. Saga silently looked at the old man. He firmly called out to his master. Saga's bright eyes glowed as he declared that the guilty must pay. He tore his shirt, vowing to defend justice even at the cost of his life, then left. The old man stood frozen, watching him go. He thought to himself he had hired the wrong person. Saga remained resolute, saying everyone tied to the arena must be executed. Meanwhile, William told himself he'd watch just one more match, eyes fixed on the arena. Under the blazing sun, Happy stood in the center of the arena. Suddenly, dark clouds covered the sun. The sky raged with thunder and lightning as rain poured down. In a mansion, a noble lady watched the rain. Seeing it pour, she rushed out to close the windows and gather the laundry. The rain grew heavier as she stepped outside. Before her was a shining armored cavalry led by a gray-haired, jade-eyed man heading toward the old castle. She wondered what was happening. The commander slammed his staff, sinking the ground beneath. He angrily declared that the royal killer was hiding in this region. He ordered everyone in the area arrested, resistors beheaded, soldiers shouted, "Yes!" While in the arena, battles raged. William noted all were meaningless except Happy's. Then the horn blew for the main event. The commander clenched his fist and bowed solemnly. He announced that the infamous mass murderer was still alive. The crowd erupted in panic, whispering about the killer. The host continued. The man had slain patrols and guards known as Dark Spirit, once sentenced to death but now here to fight Happy Faye. Happy appeared with his familiar innocent smile. William watched Happy closely as the host shouted the opponent's name, Dark Spirit. On the opposite side, a brown-haired man with a twisted face and blade-like eyes grinned creepily, mocking life in the arena. He licked his lips viciously and stepped into the ring. Suddenly, the knight commander appeared behind him, drawing his sword coldly to question why a condemned man was brought here. Dark Spirit turned back in terror. The commander's expression darkened, concluding all prisoners were controlled by Imperial forces. Dark Spirit glanced past him, his gaze suddenly changing. He seemed to realize a hidden truth. The wooden door behind him creaked open, making him scheme. Staring at his dagger, he devised an escape plan. He suddenly attacked, aiming to stab the commander and flee, face twisted like a beast. But the commander reacted instantly. His blade slashed, cutting Dark Spirit in half in a flash. On the stands, the host panicked as the opponent hadn't appeared. The crowd mocked until screams rang out the one who entered was the royal commander, not the killer. He shouted for everyone to kneel, declaring all present suspects in the royal assassination. Soldiers poured in from all sides, leaving William frozen in confusion. A man in the crowd screamed his innocence and tried to escape. William watched in horror as a rebel was cut down. The order to kill all echoed. Everyone knelt except Happy, who calmly smiled before suddenly charging at the commander, eyes fixed on the bloodied sword. The commander looked down coldly, thinking all here were equally stubborn. He gripped his sword tightly, ready to fight. Happy leaped with such force that the ground cracked. The blade grazed his face, missing by inches. The commander was stunned that his sure strike failed. He wondered why he had stopped midway. Happy crouched low, then lunged like a beast, his twisted smile chilling the crowd. For the first time, the commander felt fear of his opponent. Happy grabbed him and headbutted with a thunderous crash. Soldiers and spectators froze as Happy flipped back, landing lightly, smiling eerily. The commander roared in fury. He gripped the sword so hard his arm trembled. He spun and slashed back with lightning speed, but his eyes suddenly narrowed at what he saw. Happy stood calm, as if everything was under his control. The sword halted midair, leaving no room to counter. He glanced at Happy's hand, unease rising too late. With eyes wide, he only thought to strike precisely. But Happy moved first, punching his face like thunder. His face glowed with the mad joy of a predator. The blow sent the massive commander flying. He gasped in horror, unable to breathe. William stood stunned, unable to believe what happened. Yet the commander struggled back to his feet. His eyes blazed with fury and iron will. William watched anxiously, heart racing. The commander pressed his lips, sneering coldly, gripping his sword to retaliate. He lunged with a deadly slash, but when the dust cleared, Happy had vanished. Suddenly, he appeared behind, kicking the commander down. The commander's face slammed into the floor as he tried to lift his head. Happy stood there with a demonic grin, his body shrouded in dark, deathly aura. Arrows flew toward Happy from behind. He caught most, but one pierced his back, knocking him down. The commander wiped blood as soldiers shouted in concern. He frowned in confusion, unsure what was happening. Fear flickered in his eyes, sweat pouring as he wondered, who is he really? Happy lay pinned by an arrow through his neck, yet still smiled, making the commander tremble as if facing a demon. He raged, thinking even in death this man wouldn't yield. He forced himself up, raising his sword to finish him. A large man covered in rings shouted to stop. The commander turned to see him rushing over. As the blade halted, Lucas panted, explaining that Happy thought this was just a match, never understanding the real world. He said harshly that Happy was merely a dog trained to react whenever he saw a weapon. The commander fell silent, pondering his words. He looked at Happy's horrifying, fixed smile. Lucas quickly added that the expression came from a birth defect. The facial nerves were damaged, locking the smile permanently. The commander still doubted. Lucas insisted it was the undeniable truth. He recounted Happy's life, the child who smiled through suffering. Since birth, abandoned by his parents, Happy had never lost that smile. Even when injured, he acted cheerful, worrying others. Even as loved ones died or he was tortured, he kept smiling. Lucas said Happy was truly terrified and hopeless, just unable to show emotion. He pointed at Happy, who was gasping yet still smiling, painfully red-faced. William heard everything, realizing the world had been deceived by that face. Lucas continued confessing that he too was obsessed by it. He laughed bitterly, saying helping Happy was repayment for the joy he'd never known. Happy kept staring at the commander's gleaming blade. Suddenly, the commander raised his sword, calling Lucas a beast unworthy of life. He smashed the flat of his sword into Lucas' face, knocking him down. Eventually, Lucas and the arena's operators were hanged. The king watched from above as his anger eased. In the dungeon, cries echoed. William curled in the dark corner, trembling in terror. The weeping continued, signaling the next round of executions. William panicked, blaming himself and begging for mercy, mind overwhelmed by fear. He confessed his crimes, facing Happy, who still smiled and greeted him. William slowly turned toward Happy Face. Seeing the familiar face, he was shocked. Happy cheerfully said they'd been locked up together since yesterday. He treated it as nothing, staying silent as William rambled. William calmed down, realizing his panic. He suddenly remembered Happy's fight, and fear rose within him. William nervously asked if Happy was hurt. Happy said he had faked his death despite being shot, smiling innocently that he was fine. William froze, unable to believe him. He recalled Lucas Turn's words about the nerve-damaged face, then asked if Happy was afraid. Happy smiled with squinting eyes, saying, "Of course everyone fears death." William fell silent, not knowing what to say. He bowed his head, realizing the irony between expression and emotion. Happy asked why he laughed. William stammered a denial with an awkward excuse. Happy cut him off, saying everyone's the same, leaving William speechless. The two contrasted, one silent, one still smiling. While awaiting death, William felt strangely at peace beside Happy, until soldiers announced visits from relatives to prove innocence. Prisoners stirred those proven innocent would go free, others executed. William's family arrived. His sister ran to hug him. They reunited in tears. His father asked why. His sister looked around innocently. William only apologized as his family comforted him, while Happy watched the reunion from afar. William suddenly remembered something and turned toward Happy. His father unexpectedly placed a hand on his head. That familiar gesture recalled childhood memories. His father's voice sounded calm yet sharp. "Those without family live in misery." The words made William tremble as childhood fears of fate's control returned. Oh dear. Even grown, William hadn't escaped that fear, yet he believed death shouldn't be their destiny. Childhood memories returned. His father once forced him to look at the palace, then angrily pulled him away. He shouted for William to stay silent and follow. William moved stiffly like a puppet, powerless to resist. He blamed himself for still being weak. His mind numbed as darkness swallowed his feelings. In the deep dungeon, Happy Face smiled gently and whispered, "It's all right." William froze, body numb as if rooted. He didn't notice the wound on Happy's back still bleeding. The commander watched as William's family walked out. The soldiers reported the innocent were released, the rest to be executed. One soldier added there was a special case. The commander frowned, reading a letter, remembering Lucas's image. He had once donated to the church, so by law he was sentenced to lifelong slavery. The king agreed, and the commander asked for the man's identity. The soldier replied he had no name, only the title the Gladiator. The commander suddenly recalled Happy Face, understanding Lucas' meaning. He remembered the words about repaying the joy never experienced in life. He gazed into the distance, thinking of the one Happy tried to protect a week later at the slave market. The place was gloomy. Happy locked in a cage as passers-by called him mad. They complained no one would buy him, until someone pointed a stick to buy the one crying instead of the one smiling. Happy's eyes widened, confused by what was happening. A gentle silver-haired old woman said she'd buy him, seeing despairing tears in his eyes. In a cozy home, the breakfast table glowed with candlelight and abundant food. A young woman worried for the old lady, fearing the slave was untrustworthy. A man reassured her that help was good. He passed food to his daughter, saying the boy was kind and the old woman had sharp judgment. The girl insisted she would visit the slave herself tomorrow. The sun set, golden light spreading over the small house in green fields. The young man entered, and the old woman reminded him to bathe and change since he still looked as shabby as when he arrived. The door closed, making her glance back. She sighed, scolding that they hadn't fed him, then told him to bathe so she could cook, warning he must work hard for meals starting tomorrow. He curiously asked if that meant fighting, worrying her. She sternly told him not to say such dreadful things. He stayed silent and returned to the bathroom as she kept talking. She reminded him to wash dishes, clean up, and chop wood for winter. He removed his filthy clothes, feeling lighter. Slowly stepping into the tub, water touched his skin. He expected it to be cold, but the warmth made him smile as memories of hardship surfaced. The dirt washed away with the water, he whispered, so warm and soaked in the rare comfort. His face flushed with a bright smile the first time Happy knew what a hot bath was. The pain in his heart slowly cleansed away. The place was full of warmth. Even the people here made him feel calm inside. After dinner, the old lady gently bandaged his wounds. Her hands were soft and careful, full of affection. She muttered angrily, cursing those who had hurt him, then reassured him the medicine would help him heal. He softly called out to his mistress. He shyly asked permission to go outside, voice repeating but innocent. She stayed silent, patiently applying the medicine. He stepped into the yard, welcoming the sunset, hand shading his eyes. Light filtered through his fingers onto his innocent face. He felt the world was strange yet warm, completely different from the dim light once piercing the iron bars. Back then, he was just a curious child longing to see the world outside. A man from those days had said, "Happy, the world outside is bigger than you think." His face marked by a long scar. He told him that when free, he'd understand to go anywhere. Now it had come true. He looked back at the house, recalling the old lady's words. "If you wish to leave, then go. I can't keep you." His eyes suddenly turned sharp, filled with hidden intent. He returned with a bright smile, saying he'd seen enough, Mom. He stepped closer slowly but firmly, like a child learning to walk, trembling yet determined. He hugged the old woman tightly, softly calling Father. The image of his joyful father flashed in his mind. Now, the old lady's gaze held the same loving warmth. He smiled while cleaning, promising to work hard from now on. The old woman chuckled kindly, eyes full of satisfaction. The door opened as the old man called his wife. Freezing at the sight of tall Happy in an apron cleaning, she joyfully greeted him. He scratched his head, surprised, thinking she had adopted a small child. She hugged Happy, who was only shoulder height, teasingly calling him a kid. He forced a laugh, thinking Winnie would surely make a fuss tomorrow. He said he hoped they would live well together, and Happy cheerfully agreed. The three looked like a warm family, Happy's eyes shining brightly. He saw their reflections in the window and felt true happiness for the first time. Suddenly, a stone shattered the glass. At the same time, William sank into despair, surrounded by letters of curses and accusations for witnessing the royal death. Even without seeing anything in the arena, William lost all titles and scholarships. A dismissal hearing approached, and all friends turned their backs on him. Through the window, he saw his father kneeling, begging for his son's last chance. William gritted his teeth in fury, unable to bear his father's humiliation. He left silently, turmoil raging inside. He banged on his senior's door, shouting if the entry card was his. He screamed hoarsely, insisting on his innocence, pounding the door repeatedly. The door swung open as William stood there in anger. The senior appeared, coldly opening the door. He sneered, saying they were never friends, then spat barbarian, leaving William speechless. The door opened wide. Students inside laughed and mocked, treating him as a joke. William clenched the card tightly, blood boiling. He charged in rage, stunning everyone. He aimed to beat the traitor with the card, but they restrained him, calling him insane as he struggled desperately. The man smirked, mocking that he would surely be expelled. William spat in his face, cursing, then was thrown out of the dorm. That night he wandered the forest, full of shame and loneliness. William bowed his head, begging his parents' forgiveness, hopeless for escape. Meanwhile, Happy cheerfully picked mushrooms in the forest, calling out for William. William froze, shocked to see him alive. Happy smiled brightly, holding a colorful mushroom, saying he came out to find food. He offered it to William, who warned it was poisonous. Happy panicked and threw it away, narrowly avoiding death. From afar, a group of mysterious men secretly watched them. The hooded one asked his comrades, confirming William was from the Noble Academy. They affirmed he was a noble and suspected Happy was a servant ghost. The two played innocently, unaware of being stalked. The bandits plotted to steal gold and prepared to strike. William asked about Happy's slave life, and he answered simply and cheerfully. William worried about him wandering alone. Happy said his mistress allowed it, joking, "I might die soon." Happy turned to ask why William was crying, but before hearing an answer, bandits appeared and surrounded them. The two exchanged calm looks without panic. The bandits tightened their circle, weapons gleaming. William coldly told Happy to duck. Before he understood, William knelt down, pulling out his purse. He trembled, offering gold and begging for mercy, surrendering all he had. The bandits laughed mockingly at his obedient reaction. The leader pressed a knife, threatening that their true targets were William's parents. He ordered both to be captured. They rushed forward. William shouted he wasn't a noble, but they still robbed him. One rummaged through Happy's bag, sneering before taking a devastating punch. He collapsed to the ground unconscious. The group was shocked, then enraged. One shouted, confused about what had just happened. Happy kept his eerily innocent smile. The man in the hat sensed something wrong and shouted if it was the boy's doing. Happy twisted his wrist slightly, releasing lightning. The loud slap struck straight into his opponent's face. The immense force stunned him, knocking him out instantly. The bandits were horrified that one blow felled the brute, while Happy grinned fiercely, clenched his fists, and slowly advanced. A cry of, "Kill him!" erupted as they all charged. The leader drew his sword and lunged forward. Happy dodged sideways, swept his leg, and tripped him face first. Another rushed in, and Happy braced a hand on the ground. He flipped up and delivered a powerful kick. In a flash, two bandits were down cold. One swung an axe, but Happy caught it effortlessly. He spun, twisted the man's arm, and a scream of pain echoed. The man in the hat staggered up, terrified by the sight. His subordinates were utterly defeated, unable to resist. Happy alone fought 5 men, choking and punching relentlessly. Wylian sweated, recalling he was once a Colosseum champion whose battle face looked demonic. The bandits screamed and fled, cursing in fear. Happy returned to his cheerful look as if nothing happened. Wylian stood stunned by his terrifying power. He remembered Happy once defeated a royal knight barehanded. Wylian found a wanted poster on the bandits, apparently of their own group. He studied the old paper, reading the bolded names of the wanted criminals. It described a murderous, thieving, and kidnapping gang of 5 active recently. The phrase entire roaming bandit group startled Wylian, who turned to tell Happy. Happy smiled innocently, puzzled, asking what that meant. Wylian calmly explained they were a notorious imperial crime group. Recently, they'd rampaged near the capital, forcing the king to post huge rewards. He added it was the first official notice he'd seen about them. Wylian silently calculated the bounty far exceeded expectations. He smiled lightly at Happy, saying they'd go claim the reward together. Hearing that, Happy's eyes lit up, shouting excitedly about the gold. They went to the government office, meeting a stern middle-aged official. He coldly said slaves couldn't claim bounties, prompting Wylian's fierce protest. The official sneered, saying friendship between nobles and slaves was a joke, their status unchangeable. Wylian firmly requested to claim the bounty under his name for Happy. The official smiled, agreed, and completed the papers. It read, "Reward 1,013 gold coins, crime-roaming bandit group, captor Wylian." After finishing, Wylian handed Happy the heavy money bag. Happy beamed while Wylian smiled, advising him not to enter the forest again but use the money for food. He innocently replied, wide-eyed, admitting he didn't know how to buy or spend money. Wylian realized his naivete and offered to go with him next time to teach. Happy joyfully agreed, full of excitement. The talk turned warm. Wylian asked if he'd ever lived in the real world, and Happy, playing with a snail, said everything felt new and fascinating. They planned to meet again. Wylian pointed to his home, saying to visit any time, and Happy cheerfully waved goodbye, the snail still clinging to his head. Once Wylian was gone, Happy lowered his head, sighed heavily, his eyes filled with sadness. The next morning, in the academy hall, William's expulsion trial officially began. An official looked at Wylian, noting he had no serious injuries. Meanwhile, the senior student faked pain, wearing false bandages to gain sympathy. The presiding judge stood solemnly, ready to announce the verdict. Wylian kept his head down, avoiding everyone's eyes. The judge spoke, restating the brawling offense and saying he deserved punishment. But unexpectedly, he added that Wylian had made great merit by defeating the roaming bandits. Thus, by royal decree, Wylian was awarded a Medal of Honor, leaving him speechless in shock. His parents below were also astonished, eyes wide with joy. The senior student screamed angrily, unable to believe his ears. The judge continued, praising Wylian's bravery, declaring him pardoned and given a second chance. The hall buzzed. The nobleman blushed, stood up unable to accept it. He shouted, glaring furiously at Wylian's parents. He mocked them scornfully, accusing them of bribing officials. Furious, he tore off the bandages, gritted his teeth, and swore revenge. Back to the night before meeting Wylian. Happy struggled with intense pain, body trembling, eyes bloodshot, writhing under the blanket, not knowing what was happening despite enduring all night. When his shirt lifted, old scars covered his body soaked in sweat. He looked at the basket, wondering if it was hunger, but it was his body's combat reflexes unused to peace. After last night's fight, it had regained rhythm. That morning was the first time Happy felt truly relaxed, waking up radiant after his most peaceful sleep since leaving the arena. Morning light streamed in, and he smiled, savoring the calm. A clear voice called outside, announcing the granddaughter's return, startling Happy upright. The old couple hurried out to greet her. She joyfully asked about the child mentioned before. The old man smiled awkwardly, pointing inside where the boy was. The girl happily took out a wooden duck, saying she wanted to gift it to the little one inside. But the scene froze abruptly, the air turning strange. Before her stood not a child, but a grown man, shocking her into dropping the gift and questioning in disbelief. The old man only nodded. Happy greeted cheerfully, unaware of her confusion. The small house remained simple, surrounded by lush green. She whispered her concern to the old man, but he reassured her that the boy seemed trustworthy after some time together. They both watched Happy working eagerly through the window. The old man smiled, saying as long as his wife was happy, he was content. He praised Happy as the most energetic person he'd met, while the girl still felt cautious, though admitting he was diligent. Happy carried a big water bucket. Asking where to place it, the old woman told him to leave it by the garden corner. From inside, the girl saw the old man smiling and thought he was kind, while he felt relieved not to clean so hard anymore. The girl still couldn't fully trust, holding a bit of doubt. The sky was clear with white clouds and golden sunlight everywhere. Beside the axe lay scattered old logs. She picked up the axe, telling herself she could manage alone. She slowly chopped wood, putting all her strength into each strike. Gradually, she built up a fair pile through persistence. Happy kept working cheerfully. He handled water while she split the wood. Whiny sighed tiredly as she saw Happy return with the water buckets. Happy smiled brightly, saying the bathwater was ready. She told him to rest, saying she'd handle the remaining wood herself. Happy politely agreed at once. He set the water down and sat, watching her intently. His constant gaze made her uneasy, asking why he wouldn't rest. Happy replied he was observing to learn how to work. She smiled slightly, feeling a bit of warmth toward his attitude. She proudly gripped the axe, swinging hard with confidence. But the blade missed, not hitting the log. A small wood chip flew into the air. It landed before Happy, making her blush in embarrassment. She pretended it was kindling wood, trying to save face. She lifted the axe high again and struck harder. This time she split it, joy flashing clearly. Happy beamed brightly, sharing her delight. She pointed to the pile, proudly showing off to Happy. Happy cheerfully praised her, and the old man chuckled warmly from afar. He felt at ease, thinking Whiny was actually doing fine. The old woman approached, saying Whiny didn't need to chop more wood. Whiny was surprised. The old lady said Happy had already chopped a huge pile behind. She stepped back, stunned at the towering stack. She watched in confusion while Happy smiled calmly. Whiny frowned, accusing him of lying about learning. Happy explained he only wanted to see proper posture, since his shoulders hurt from chopping yesterday. Whiny complained loudly, saying no wonder his shoulders hurt. She scolded him for wasting her effort and teasing with that grin. The old lady quickly defended him, saying he was tired. She told Whiny to rest, gently patting Happy's shoulder in thanks. Whiny turned away sulking. As evening fell, mist filled the bathhouse with warm steam. Whiny relaxed in the bath, thinking having extra help was convenient. She felt relieved. Life at home had become easier. After drying her hair, she heard Happy fumbling as he prepared to leave. She lifted her head, surprised, looking toward the window. Seeing Happy with a basket at dusk, she wondered where he was going. The old lady called after him as he left. While Whiny was surprised, he said nothing. The old lady said he was allowed to go out after work hours.
The old man mentioned he'd seen him go out last night too, startling her.
Whiny still couldn't understand why he often left late at night. Happy reached a quiet street. He knocked lightly and called softly. "Wailian," Happy's friendly voice sounded. The door creaked open and a little girl appeared. She asked who it was. Wailian came out, telling her to go inside and wait. She looked up, asking where he was going. Wailian gestured for silence, saying he was heading to the library. She asked softly if the other person was his library friend. He smiled and nodded. She waved goodbye, telling him to be careful. Wailian smiled back. As they stepped out, Wailian murmured he hadn't expected Happy to come himself. Happy cheerfully asked about going out, and Wailian said he had permission and wanted to thank his lifesaver. Happy was surprised. Wailian laughed, inviting him along, saying he wanted to visit the market fast, right? Happy pulled out some papers, saying no, he wanted to go here today. Wailian looked closely. It was a wanted poster. It described crimes of murder and prison escape, depicting an armored giant. Happy said, like before, he wanted to hunt this one but couldn't read, asking Wailian's help. Wailian understood they were preparing for another bounty hunt. Happy happily offered to share the reward. Last time they had split evenly, and Wailian not only felt grateful, but also fascinated by Happy's unique fighting style. For Happy, those fights soothed his inner pain and made him feel alive. So each night they hunted bounties together. Today Happy asked for the new target, and Wailian said he'd already found it. The two returned to their usual spot, and Wailian grabbed more wanted posters to prepare. But his frequent night outings made his family suspicious. His father asked if he was going to the library again, startling him. His sister burst into tears, accusing him of neglect and always going out with that person, but Wylian still rushed off. His parents exchanged worried, puzzled looks. At the old couple's house, the wooden duck still sat by the window. Whiny, searching Happy's room, found a large bag of money. She froze, wondering what Happy did each night to earn it. The scene shifted to a dark cave, golden light reflecting off scattered mirrors. Outside stood the armored giant from the wanted poster, who had just slaughtered the guards, realizing Happy's arrival. He sneered, while Happy smiled and showed Wylian the poster they'd found their target. Wylian turned pale, sensing danger before the giant. He panicked, realizing he'd only meant to choose small targets, not a real monster. The armored brute scoffed, calling them rookies who should leave. He said the poster was just bait because of recent bandit hunts. Wylian questioned if a true criminal could roam freely like that, because no one was strong enough to stop him. Wylian forced a weak laugh, then an explosion sounded. Happy had charged in. The giant quickly countered, blocking with precision. Wylian froze, stunned that Happy dared fight barehanded. The giant laughed creepily, mocking Happy's kick even hit. Happy still smiled as if unharmed. Wylian couldn't react, everything happening too fast. He screamed in panic, begging Happy to stop and run. The giant coldly said it was too late. A sharp hiss followed as his massive shield shot forward like lightning. He sneered that they should have fled while they could. His hammer swung, creating a deadly whirl of wind. The strikes crashed down like thunder, giving Happy no time to breathe. Happy took several hits, forced to retreat repeatedly. Wylian trembled at a loss for action. He cried out desperately for Happy to stop. Happy glanced back at him, puzzled by his plea. Wylian shouted that he'd admired Happy's fighting for its vitality, not cruelty. He'd followed because he believed in him. But now Wylian regretted it, realizing his recklessness. He wept, saying this wasn't an arena with cheers but a deadly battlefield, apologizing for endangering Happy. The armored brute ignored him and attacked them both. Happy pulled Wylian back, dodging narrowly. He smiled, saying Wylian was truly a rookie of the arena. Happy countered swiftly, knocking the weapon from his foe's hands. The giant was stunned by his speed. Happy grabbed the spear, recalling his greedy former master Lucas, who forced him to fight and fake losses for money. The memory darkened his gaze mid-battle. He gave a weary smile and flung the spear aside, embedding it in the ground. Happy raised his hand, preparing a new strike. Behind him, Wylian held his breath, both awed and afraid. The giant growled in anger, while Happy smirked provocatively, saying he never fought for pleasure. Torture memories flooded Happy's mind. Disobedience meant death. That pain had made him addicted to combat, even after leaving the arena. He roared, unleashing a flurry of furious punches. The armored man mocked that such blows couldn't even scratch him. He retaliated with heavy slashes aimed straight at Happy. The weapon's shriek echoed non-stop, yet Happy dodged effortlessly. The giant's breathing grew ragged, confused about what was happening. He was horrified to realize every strike had been cleanly evaded. In his head echoed the thought, wasn't that kid supposed to be dying? The calmer Happy looked, the angrier he became. He gripped the spear tightly, channeling all his strength. Power surged violently, shaking the air. A roar thundered through the cave. The giant lost balance, stumbling. Instantly, Happy closed in, locking his body tight. He thrashed in panic, trying to break free from Happy's iron grip. A strong gust swept through. He tried to counter-throw, wrapping his arm around Happy, but the boy reacted instantly. In that instant, Happy realized a single mistake meant death. He abruptly released his hold and slipped free. The giant lurched forward and Happy spun-kicked him in the back. The giant roared with fury, eyes blazing at being overwhelmed. He countered with a heavy kick, but Happy easily dodged. He screamed in rage, cursing through clenched teeth. Happy stayed silent, delivering a powerful kick to his supporting leg. He took the blow full on and fell. Happy instantly flipped him, pinning his neck to the ground. The armored brute crashed down, body limp after the fall. Happy seized the advantage, kicking his abdomen repeatedly, face alight with excitement. He pinned the foe down, striking continuously without pause. The man tried to retaliate, but his arms trembled. His body was pressed into the stone floor by Happy, nearly immobile. He gasped, trying to use his shield to counter, but Happy swiftly dodged with ease. He staggered upright, breathing heavily, his face twisted in pain and rage, yet still burned with fighting spirit. Wylian hid behind a rock, noting both were growing exhausted. The giant was clearly tired from the heavy armor and weapons. He changed tactics, bracing the shield on the ground to regain balance. Now he aimed only for Happy's unguarded head. Meanwhile, Happy turned to Wylian with a grateful smile. Wylian said emotionally, "Thank you for saving me. You're my only friend. I don't want you hurt." Happy bent down and picked up a broken spearhead nearby. The shattered tip glowed oddly, reflecting a fiery red light. The giant sneered that such a weapon was useless against his steel armor. Right after the taunt, Happy spun and hurled the spearhead forward like lightning. The giant raised his shield instantly, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. Then he froze, eyes widening in fear. Happy had already appeared right before him, gripping the broken spear tip. The spear pierced straight into the giant's abdomen as Happy heaved, flinging him skyward. Though he thrashed wildly, his resistance meant nothing. Extraneous content omitted from the main story. Happy's eyes gleamed demon-like in the dark, his breathing fierce. The giant was spent, trembling all over, utterly drained. He collapsed, body motionless, life fading away. Wheelian trembled in fear of Happy's overwhelming power, realizing he'd fought at full force. Happy smiled faintly, saying the man only fainted, not died. Wheelian froze, unsure whether to feel relief or dread. Happy remained calm as if nothing happened, treating the battle as routine. He said it wasn't a fair fight, adding his master had hated such matches. Wheelian, thrilled, praised him and declared they'd achieved something great, fully trusting Happy. Happy replied tiredly that he hadn't slept for many nights and wanted to nap right there. Wheelian asked in surprise as Happy lay down to rest without a care. He murmured that after fighting, sleep always came suddenly, and asked Wheelian to handle the rest. Wheelian fumbled, unsure what to do next. He watched Happy sleeping soundly, debating whether to leave him and report. Wheelian bent to pick up the broken spearhead. He wondered how Happy had defeated the foe if the spear tip was just bait, what had been the real finishing move. Wheelian suspected Happy hit another weapon, or used something from his own body. He approached to check, noticing the corpse's heavy weight. Wondering how Happy had lifted it, he decided to report just as the royal captain arrived. Wheelian quickly saluted, stammering that he was the one who captured the criminal. Another soldier said he'd nearly died and barely escaped to call reinforcements. He claimed to have seen Wheelian carrying the wanted poster into the forest. The soldiers realized he had come bounty hunting. They asked his name and Wheelian introduced himself honestly. The troops murmured in recognition, recalling he was the student who caught the notorious bandit gang. They marveled that he'd defeated the criminal with just a broken spear tip. One said rumors in the Night Corps spoke of him the skilled bounty hunter who treated captures as training. Wheelian was astonished, not expecting to have become such a tale. The captain suggested they handle the scene and the reward, escorting Wheelian out. A soldier, seeing Happy lying still, thought he was wounded, making the captain suspicious. After checking, the captain concluded the wounds weren't from a spear, the blood wasn't fresh, and no matching weapon was found. He silently watched Happy as Wheelian carried him away. The soldiers puzzled while Wheelian simply smiled, saying, "Hez just sleeping." The captain squinted after them, suspicion rising. How could an ordinary student defeat a famed bandit group? In a vast underground chamber, a battered man knelt before a scar-faced leader raging over failure. He roared, condemning his men for submitting to nobles and losing shamefully to a student. The kneeling men trembled, begging forgiveness. But the scarred man coldly killed one, then growled that they were exiled bandits who must fight the Empire to the death. When asked who beat them, a woman replied it was Wheelian, the young bounty hunter. The scarred leader immediately ordered, "Their next target is him." Blood from the corpse stained the dungeon floor. Meanwhile, at a noble's mansion, another man asked about Wheelian's origin and was told angrily he was just a rich merchant's son who bought his title. The noble threw a paper to a curly-haired man, saying to make the boy understand the price of insulting them. The curly-haired man unfolded it. Inside was the emblem of the Brigham Assassin organization. The old noble calmly said it was the family's hired assassin group, meant for his son after graduation, but now was the time to act. He ordered to contact Brigham and eliminate Wheelian. The air turned deathly cold. Elsewhere, Lao Niejiao and Saga were shocked by news of 3 corpses found on the road to the kingdom that morning. Saga wondered if the case was closed, noting it seemed more like murder than a leftover battle. Lao Niejiao snapped, telling him not to write nonsense reports, the dead were just bandits, no one cared. Yet Saga still sensed something unusual about the case. He examined the corpses closely, noticing the bruises and fresh wounds. Their forms and deaths matched those seen near the arena recently. At that moment, Winnie entered cheerfully, saying she'd brought all the herbs he asked for. The old man smiled in welcome, asking about her grandfather's health. Winnie said he was fine, and Lao Niejiao joked that her grandpa never worried about anything, making her laugh and sigh, "Here we go again." She turned to greet Saga, who awkwardly responded. Winnie continued speaking. She placed another herb pouch down, saying it was for Saga, leaving him speechless. She curiously asked, "What's wrong? Don't you like it?" They both laughed awkwardly. Saga quickly thanked her, saying he was always grateful. The old man praised Winnie's generosity, saying she should have sold the herbs for money. Winnie smiled gently, saying helping him was natural, and giving Saga a bit more didn't matter. They chatted pleasantly as she mentioned his former slaves had all left early, only Saga stayed long. He nodded in praise, but wondered why Saga sneaked out every night, making Winnie silently avoid his probing gaze. Winnie softly said her side had a similar case. The old man asked in surprise if they also bought a slave. She confirmed, but said it seemed suspicious since he often went out and hid strange money. Winnie added he used to be a gladiator, which made her uneasy. Doubt toward Saga grew in Winnie's heart. Saga overheard and stepped forward, saying the only arena here had vanished along with its fighters. Winnie was stunned, refusing to believe it since she was sure the boy was won. Saga explained those fighters were criminals or prisoners. He argued that any homeless person surviving must have a force backing them. He concluded that such a power was strong enough to influence even the king, warning it could be dangerous. Saga offered to stop investigating if she provided the slave papers, and Winey agreed to ask for help. He promised to check tonight and return tomorrow. Someone threatened Saga that if he kept investigating, death would come before truth. Saga firmly replied he only wished the world were full of good people. The story shifted to Wailian and Happy. They left the forest, and Wailian called Happy to wake up. Wailian said Happy was exhausted after many sleepless nights. In the middle of the night, they saw a lit house, and Wailian called out. That word of thanks ended the previous story part. The old woman panicked, seeing Happy fainted, but Wailian reassured her he was just tired. He told her not to worry, just let him rest. Winey asked if they went bounty hunting every night. Wailian smiled and confirmed. He began telling of Happy's painful past in the arena. Wailian explained Happy had endured brutal torture, forced to fight non-stop. Hearing that, the old woman wept. The old man sat in thought, and Winey's doubts slowly faded. Wailian revealed Happy had once saved his life. Then he thanked them and left. The next morning, Happy awoke, startled. Winey asked why he hadn't told them earlier about his wounds and expressions so they could understand. Happy blamed himself, saying the weak were abandoned in the arena. The air warmed. Winey gently said this was a family, and they would heal him and help him live like a normal person. Happy brightened with joy at her words. Winey felt relieved, letting go of all her doubts, smiling softly. She smiled confidently, reaching out her hand and promising to heal Happy. Happy replied quietly, taking a small item from his pocket. He said he had bought this. It was something he'd saved from his very first reward. Winnie asked in surprise what he was going to do. Happy put the ring on her hand, making her blush shyly. Everyone around was curious and confused. She was too shy to speak, her face flushed red. Happy laughed freely, lightening the mood. The elderly couple entered, announcing that William had brought the prize money. Happy, touched, told everyone to keep the money, saying he would stop fighting, and Winnie promised to heal him. The old man hugged Happy affectionately like his own grandson. Everyone looked at each other and smiled brightly with joy. Winnie silently felt peace in her heart. She suddenly understood why the old lady called Happy son. Happy was innocent like a child, filling the room with laughter as he shared the reward. Saga read Winnie's letter, stating the misunderstanding was cleared and no further investigation was needed. Everything seemed to end too smoothly. At that moment, William's former senior appeared, regretful and asking for reconciliation. William looked at him, unable to stay cold for long. He sighed and agreed to talk privately, instead of joining the meal. From afar, Saga smirked, believing it was just an act. As soon as they left, the man revealed his true nature. He suddenly pushed William into a nearby abyss. William lost balance and fell hard. His body hit the ground violently. When he opened his eyes, 3 strangers approached, and he confusedly asked who they were. They immediately rushed in and beat him brutally. William, dizzy and helpless, begged them to stop. One glared with hatred, shouting he had hated William for a long time. William weakly asked why. He yelled that everything was William's fault and was furious for being blamed.
He kicked William hard, knocking him down, scolding him for daring to surpass him.
He grabbed William's collar, lifted him, and shouted that fairness didn't exist here. He sneered that only those born rich had the right to hold their heads high. He continued insulting that everyone in the academy despised someone as lowly as him. He leaned down with a cruel grin, saying everyone would be glad when William died. Turning away, he spoke venomously and ordered his 3 subordinates to finish William. All 3 obeyed in unison. Saga secretly watched, realizing they were Briganti mercenaries specialized in assassination. He was shocked, thinking it was just bullying, but finding it a true murder plot. Saga frowned, disgusted by the noble's vile tactics. He told himself he had long wanted to hunt Briganti, and now the chance had come. Saga rushed into the building, hiding in the shadows. Inside, William was still being tortured and humiliated. They mocked him like a naive child. They threatened to torment him slowly until he died. William, in pain, questioned the meaning of his efforts. He bitterly thought he must die because of a powerful man's hatred. Struggling to stand, he was still mocked by the 3 laughing men. William's will did not waver. He refused to die in humiliation. He swore to become someone powerful enough to change this unjust world. Suddenly, a strange woman appeared, smiling mysteriously, stunning everyone. Before they could react, she struck powerfully and knocked all 3 down. She coldly questioned William, confirming his identity and mocking his ability. She mentioned the killing of 5 bandits and doubted his reputation. Continuing her interrogation, she asked about the remaining one, frightening and mocking the mercenaries. With another light move, she struck again, making all 3 collapse once more. William was stunned, unable to grasp the girl's power. With a sweet yet threatening voice, she warned that any movement would get them chained like dogs. Then she smiled at William, saying they could continue talking in silence. Saga, still hiding on the roof, heard everything but couldn't tell if she was the gang's leader or deputy. Saga realized William was being hunted by both the arena and nobles, so he decided to withdraw. The woman continued interrogating, sternly asking who was with William at that time. She pressed a cold knife to his neck, demanding an answer or death. In pain, William recalled memories with Happy. He remembered Happy's words telling him not to risk his life because he was his only friend. Tears flowed as William screamed his friend's name in despair. Happy, once a slave, now living peacefully on a farm. As Saga left, he heard Happy's name and frowned with a bad feeling. Meanwhile, Happy enjoyed his warm farm life, thinking gratefully of William. Karina looked at William coldly, saying he was too weak to kill and that his family shouldn't have been slaughtered. William glared in shock, not understanding her words. Karina calmly revealed they had killed William's whole family for revenge, and her people were now heading to his home. Indeed, Karina's comrades appeared at William's house. After speaking, Karina released him and declared she would go find Happy. William tried to reach out but was too weak, calling her name helplessly. His face turned pale, eyes blurred with desperate tears. In his mind, he recalled joyful talks with Happy. The image of his friend, his savior, appeared clearly. He thought of his loving, warm family. William clenched his fist, filled with rising hatred. He collapsed, trembling in utter despair. He blamed himself, wishing he were stronger to bear everything, and begged the enemy to kill him. He regretted getting involved in trouble from the start. Tears fell on his bruised face as he felt weak and powerless. He cursed himself for running away and failing to protect anyone. In the silent room, only William's muffled sobs echoed. William struggled to stand, thinking he must change his destiny. His eyes gleamed, his face twisted by pain and resolve. Blood gushed as he walked on, driven by the will to protect what he loved. Gripping his sword tightly, William radiated killing intent and determination to change. At the same time, the curly-haired man was secretly working, grumbling in fear of being caught. He sensed something strange and turned his head. William suddenly appeared, his icy face freezing him in terror. The curly-haired man stared in disbelief, trembling. William had killed all his comrades. Terrified, the curly-haired man backed away, screamed, and fell to the ground. His body hit hard, leaving him dazed. He gritted his teeth and screamed in pain. William walked toward him, each step pounding like a hammer on his heart. He wanted to run, but his body was frozen. In utter fear, the curly-haired man knelt, begging for mercy, unable to believe William's power. He crawled to lick William's boots, flattering him while hiding hatred inside. William coldly said one word, "Good." Then he calmly walked past without looking back. The curly-haired man trembled, thinking he was about to die, covering his head and waiting, but nothing happened. He looked up in shock to see his father standing above, eyes full of disappointment. William ignored it and walked straight up to the man. Killing intent surrounded him. His icy gaze made the man shiver as he ordered him to move aside. The curly-haired man's father froze in disbelief, then bowed in submission. He silently stepped aside to make way. The curly-haired man cried out in fear, shocked that even his father bowed. The man stayed silent while William gave a faint, mocking smile. He realized those who once despised him easily bowed to violence. His hand tightened on the sword, understanding only strength could make his voice heard. William walked through pools of blood, each step marking his resolve. This was not destruction, but liberation. Elsewhere, William's family opened the door to a strange knock. The visitor was Happy, smiling as he said he came to see William. The family invited him in. William's mother kindly served soup and chatted about her son's bounty hunting. William's father cheerfully said his son had matured thanks to a good friend. His sister Ellie pouted, complaining that her brother neglected her. Happy gently replied that William had decided to stop bounty hunting. Ellie rejoiced and asked again to be sure. She crossed her arms proudly, saying she would reconsider her feelings for him. William's mother smiled softly, praising it as a wise choice since the job was dangerous. William's father frankly noted Happy looked noble, educated, and strong. Happy smiled and revealed his real name was Nolaya. The family froze, William's parents showing clear confusion. His father curiously asked again, thinking he was joking since a slave couldn't study with William. Happy sincerely said he wasn't educated, only bounty hunted thanks to William's help. The room instantly grew tense. William's father repeated the word slave, his expression changing. He scowled with disdain, saying a slave was unworthy to sit at the same table, darkening the mood. He sternly ordered Happy to leave and forbade contact with his son. Happy bowed, clenching his arm, suppressing his humiliation. William's mother gently advised her husband, reminding him that the boy had saved William's life, but his father dismissed it coldly, saying gratitude only existed among equals, not slaves. Ellie quietly left the table just as another knock sounded. William's father shouted angrily, while Ellie timidly opened the door, hoping it was her brother. A cold stranger asked if William was home. The girl trembled, saying he had gone out, and asked if the man knew William. The stranger glared. Then a piercing scream echoed from the doorway. It was Monkey Face and Liu Dong, the bandit leader. He coldly ordered his men to bring William to their base, kill his parents, and leave a blood message. Monkey Face charged in with a sword while the leader grabbed Ellie's face, lifting her cruelly like a toy. Ellie gasped for air, tears streaming as she struggled in despair. She cried out for her mother in terror. William's mother jumped up at the sound of her daughter's voice. She panicked and ran to the door. William's father followed, stopping briefly when he sensed something odd. He noticed Happy's faint, suspicious smile while the boy still bowed his head. At that moment, Monkey Face slashed William's mother across the chest, making her collapse as her husband screamed her name in horror. Monkey Face inhaled the blood scent, laughing madly and threatening to kill William's father next. William's father froze in terror, unable to move, while Happy slowly stood up. On his face was a gentle yet terrifying smile, utterly unfitting for the bloody scene. William's father furiously pointed at Happy, shouting that it was all his scheme and blaming himself for not realizing sooner. Happy stayed silent, simply picking up the bowl of soup. He threw it straight past William's father, hitting Monkey Face hard in the face. The man screamed in pain, clutching his face while William's father stood frozen. Happy walked past him, coldly telling him to save his wife first. Monkey Face stared wide-eyed, shocked, wondering who this person was. He clearly remembered the girl saying William wasn't home, so this couldn't be William. Then he recalled Karina's warning about a surprise guest at the scene. He instantly linked Happy's words with that warning. Monkey Face concluded the person before him wasn't William. He realized this was the unexpected one Karina mentioned. Monkey Face raised his sword at Happy, yelling if he was the one who had hunted him. Happy said nothing and dashed forward with lightning speed. Monkey Face quickly counterattacked with a slash, but Happy dodged easily. He froze, sensing something was off. Happy took that instant to kick him straight in the head. Monkey Face couldn't evade and was thrown backward. Blood splattered before he could stand. Happy lunged and delivered a final punch. The uppercut struck his chin, knocking Monkey Face flat to the floor. He groaned, admitting silently that the opponent was extremely dangerous and must be taken seriously. Monkey Face hurriedly drew his second sword from his side to retaliate. He pulled the blade hard, using the motion to slash straight at his foe. Happy glided in, countering with a rapid chain of strikes. Seeing every attack dodged with ease, Monkey Face was horrified that the boy seemed to read his moves from the start. He faltered under the smiling face's aura, feeling as if his every move was predicted. Monkey Face kept his distance, telling himself he had to break his rhythm to gain advantage. He spun his sword skillfully in his hands. He shifted grip, both blades spinning in the air. One sword was lifted high. The other lay horizontal, hissing as it turned. The twin blades spun so fast they merged into one, appearing like 1,000 slashes as he lunged like a multi-armed beast. His eyes focused, knowing he couldn't afford a mistake. With that thought, Monkey Face charged while the smiling boy stayed calm. The boy smiled and asked him about sword dance. Monkey Face froze, utterly shocked. He lowered his swords, clenching his hands. He looked down at the weapons, asking how the opponent knew about them. The smiling boy cheerfully replied he once knew their user. Monkey Face arrogantly said Dujiti was just an imitator he himself had studied at the birthplace of sword dance. The smiling boy laughed, saying the true founder was the old man from the arena. Monkey Face froze, unable to grasp that statement. The smiling boy recalled the sword dance's creator, a master once revered as a legend. He added that Lucas once tried to capture him for the arena. Monkey Face frowned, wondering what nonsense he was saying about the arena and the sword dance's origin. Even so, the story somehow sounded believable. He fell silent as the smiling boy taunted, asking when he planned to attack. That enraged Monkey Face, who shouted he had already attacked and only paused because of his rambling. He lunged again, unleashing a storm of blades, vowing to kill his foe amid a sea of steel. The smiling boy stood still, his grin unchanged. He raised his hand slightly and said, "Go." Monkey Face noticed the motion and instantly tensed. He was shocked to see the opponent perfectly mimicking his own movement. The only difference was that the boy's hand was empty, no sword at all. Yet every movement was unnervingly precise. Monkey Face froze, as if seeing his mirror image. The smiling boy explained that sword dance was an art of constant motion, every curve meant for a fatal counter. He recalled its founder, a blind man with extraordinary intuition. While staying with him, the boy learned how the old man created blade arcs covering every direction. He mastered the skill of controlling foes through those curved sword paths. All his focus centered on pinpointing the enemy within brief moments. Now Smiling Face held the upper hand, gripping tightly until Monkey Face's sword fell. The curved motion straightened, piercing the foe in an instant. He stepped closer with a cold smile, declaring this the true form of sword dance. Monkey Face tried to resist, raising his remaining sword to strike. But before he could move, Smiling Face punched, breaking his ribs. He trembled, about to collapse, as Smiling Face grabbed his neck and mentioned Lucas Turn, the one who once gathered all arena legends. His eyes flashed with killing intent as he tightened his grip, saying their final battle was always with him. The sound of snapping bones echoed chillingly. Yet Smiling Face didn't finish him. Monkey Face coughed and fell to his knees. The boy still held his head, making him beg in terror for mercy. Monkey Face lifted his gaze and threatened that if he died, the girl would die too. He gleefully revealed they had captured Ellie, shocking William's father. Smiling Face calmly asked where she was held. In panic, he confessed in the central sewer and promised to lead the way. Immediately, the boy twisted his arm, breaking the joint so he couldn't escape. Smiling Face ordered, "Lead me there, and Monkey Face reluctantly agreed. He held him tight, forcing him ahead as they left the house together. William's father watched silently, his face paling. He struggled to speak, apologizing for misunderstanding. Smiling Face didn't reply, quietly walking away, leaving the stunned couple. He dragged Monkey Face through a dark, empty alley. Footsteps echoed, his shadow stretching along the ground. Soon they reached the central sewer entrance. Monkey Face grinned slyly, thinking he had successfully lured the enemy into their base, certain Smiling Face would die here. But he didn't expect his opponent's face to twist into something terrifyingly cruel. At that moment, William returned home, relieved and wondering if Happy had come. His father recounted everything after seeing Smiling Face leave to find Ellie, full of astonishment. He stammered an apology for his earlier misunderstanding. Smiling Face paused slightly, saying everything was because of William. He drifted into memory, recalling how his caretaker in the arena once called him a monster, a child who killed the champion in fear, yet after meeting William, he learned true warmth and joy. Out in the world, he realized he was still seen as different. With that thought, Smiling Face turned back to reassure them, asking them to trust him about the girl. He promised William's parents he would save her, then left firmly, his resolve stunning William. William jumped up, shouting at his father for not stopping Smiling Face or calling the guards. His father stood stunned, eyes filled with confusion and disbelief. William's face darkened with doubt, yet he remembered Happy's words about trust. He gripped his sword tightly, pushing away his fear. He covered his face, hiding his weakness, realizing this was no contest but a deadly journey. In his mind appeared the scene of Smiling Face being executed among the bandits. Suddenly, William suspected Smiling Face intended to sacrifice himself and vowed to stop him. With that thought, William sprinted off like an arrow, ignoring his father's calls, only shouting for him to alert the guards about the exiled bandits. At the guard post, soldiers received an urgent order about a man with a sword approaching. The knight captain kept eating calmly, finding the situation unusual. A guard reported the swordsman's identity as William. Another team confirmed he had killed a group of strangers and was returning. At that moment, a rank 2 knight ran in, reporting the exiled bandits had kidnapped a village child. The captain instantly stood, slammed the table, and rushed out like the wind. The rank 2 knight followed, saying the kidnapped child was William's sister, and William was heading toward the central sewer. The captain frowned, wondering why the secretive bandits acted openly now, perhaps reacting to William's growing fame. He quickly pieced it together. The bandits had been hunted before, failed, and now took William's sister for revenge. He recalled the smug face of their leader, Liu Dong, realizing he aimed to use William's family as a warning. Gritting his teeth in anger, the captain cursed Ken Cat for not foreseeing this scheme. Anxiety rose in him, calculating that even with skill, facing hundreds alone in the central sewer was suicide. The rank 2 knight caught up, reporting he would head to the farm since the exiled bandits were moving there too. The captain narrowed his eyes, puzzled that the bandits were splitting forces. They split up. He ordered his subordinate to handle it fast and regroup. The knight nodded and rode off while the captain's eyes burned with resolve. William was also filled with worry for Smiling Face. At the central sewer, Liu Dong eagerly awaited the coming battle. He was surrounded by heavily armed followers. Smiling Face advanced calmly, his face emerging under dim light. He had already taken down several bandits on his way, confirming William's identity. From another direction, Saga sprinted full speed, hand outstretched. He struck a guard's helmet, knocking it off. Without stopping, Saga laughed loudly and kept running. The guard could only stare blankly after him. Saga covered his face and shouted that he was an exiled bandit heading to raid the farm. The guards immediately raised the alarm and reported the thief, while one picked up his helmet, silently impressed by his speed. Soon Saga arrived at Winnie's shop. She was neatly arranging herbs on the table. Smiling contentedly, she murmured that it was time to make medicine for Happy. Winnie carefully began mixing each ingredient, preparing sleeping and pain relief potions. Suddenly she glanced aside, sensing something strange. Seeing Saga appear, she asked in surprise why he was there, while he gasped for breath, asking to rest, leaving her puzzled. Neither knew Karina was nearby, her cold eyes watching. She observed the farm from afar, seeming to wait for her chance. From above, a scar-faced man sneered, viewing the scene with mockery. Below, Ellie trembled in fear while he taunted her for daring to challenge him. Smiling Face curved his lips, declaring he would kill them all to end this, stepping into the hostile crowd. He charged into the bandits, igniting a fierce battle. The bandits were knocked back as his relentless fists struck. Smiling Face attacked non-stop, his face cold but his eyes blazing. The clash of steel and screams erupted, marking the true start of the fight. Weapons flashed everywhere, countless figures joined, and the full-scale battle began. All the bandits swung their weapons, blades surging like waves. They glared at Smiling Face with bloodlust, ready to fight to the end. Amid the chaos, he suddenly realized this time he wasn't here to compete. His hand holding the dagger hesitated for a moment. That tiny pause immediately caught the scar-faced man's attention. Smiling Face's eyes lit up as he firmly declared he would save the girl. Ellie exhaled in relief upon hearing that. The scar-faced man seized the chance to strike, but Smiling Face swiftly dodged. He leapt backward agilely. Then he unleashed a fierce counterattack with full force. Many bandits below fell under his strikes. One enraged bandit shoved others aside, shouting for a one-on-one fight. But moments later, his face turned to horror, because Smiling Face was already charging at him with a sword. He gripped the hilt tightly, striking with precision. His sudden assault left the bandits disoriented and uncoordinated. Smiling Face attacked relentlessly, his eyes wild with intensity. He jumped high into the air, then twisted midair to evade, leaning on a man behind to escape the blow from the front. His hand clamped tightly on the enemy's shoulder. With a single clean move, he took down 2 foes at once. 2 more rushed in to counterattack, but Smiling Face stayed calm, charging straight ahead. Suddenly, he bit the enemy's arm hard. Using that moment, he channeled energy through his body. He poured all his strength into the next strike, dropping another foe. The surrounding bandits watched in fear. He had felled numerous enemies in mere moments. To them, he looked like a demon wearing human skin. One after another fell, and even the scar-faced man began to worry as he realized he was being completely overwhelmed. He understood Smiling Face was using the wounded as shields, weakening his attacks. Smiling Face told himself to restrain, avoiding unnecessary killing. He carefully advanced toward Ellie, step by step toward his rescue goal. The scar-faced man shouted for his men to kill at all costs. Screams echoed everywhere, showing Smiling Face's dominance and leaving the scar-faced man stunned. He trembled, muttering in disbelief that he was losing despite his advantage in numbers, hostages, and terrain. In panic, an idea struck him. His gaze fixed on Ellie trembling in a corner, and he raised his crossbow. He aimed directly at the girl. Smiling Face immediately sensed the vile intent. Without hesitation, he threw his sword and rushed toward Ellie to stop the tragedy. Seeing his reaction, the scar-faced man smirked triumphantly, thinking victory was his. The arrow shot from the bow, whistling through the air. Smiling Face dashed forward, but it was too late to intercept. His eyes widened in horror at the sight ahead. William suddenly appeared, holding Ellie tightly, saving her from the arrow, leaving Smiling Face stunned. Without thinking, he sprinted up the wall. He grabbed the scar-faced man's leg. The man didn't even realize what happened before being yanked down. He was dragged out of hiding and slammed to the ground. The scar-faced man hit hard, unable to react. Smiling Face slowly approached him. He smirked and signaled William to step back. The scar-faced man frowned in shock, realizing the newcomer was William. Only then did he understand that amid the chaos, William had secretly rescued Ellie in a flawless plan. William quietly apologized, and Ellie softly called his name. Smiling Face told him to cover the girl's eyes, promising mutual trust before acting. With that, his figure vanished in an instant. He went mad and charged straight at the enemy. William could only watch helplessly despite wanting to help. He covered Ellie's eyes from the bloody scene as Happy's actions went beyond human limits. The battle was fiercer than ever before. In the dark corner, someone quietly raised a crossbow. It was the scar-faced man aiming precisely at his target. His target was none other than Mianxiao. Suddenly, his eyes widened in panic. He couldn't believe it was just coincidence. Even while fighting, Mianxiao dodged every arrow with uncanny precision. To the scarred man, he looked like a demon with 1,000 eyes sensing every attack. William hid in the corner, protecting Ellie, stunned by the scene. He began to realize Happy was not only a great fighter, but something more. Even so, William couldn't help wondering how strong Happy really was. But now he fully understood the answer. Mianxiao single-handedly overwhelmed the entire bandit gang, shocking William. The scar-faced man was terrified and confused, questioning if his foe was still human. He gathered all his strength, aimed carefully, and fired a fatal shot. The arrow flew fast, but Mianxiao foresaw it and dropped his sword to dodge. Then he stepped back, dragging several bandits down with him. Their screams drew everyone's eyes toward their leader. He threw away the crossbow and charged forward at great speed. His cloak fell, revealing a body built for battle. The scar-faced man drew 2 knives from his back and gripped them tightly. He shouted for his men to retreat so he could fight alone. Thus began the life-or-death duel between Mianxiao and the scar-faced man. He was now like a madman, slashing wildly in frenzy. Mianxiao stayed calm, never backing down. He blocked and countered, landing a strong kick that sent his foe flying and striking his chest. The scar-faced man staggered back, trying to keep a safe distance. Mianxiao smiled slightly, clearly pleased with his advantage. They clashed again, blade against blade. He easily neutralized the man's fierce attacks. Then Mianxiao gathered force and swung to finish him. The two fought evenly, their powers balanced. Gradually, the scar-faced man gained the upper hand, forcing Mianxiao to defend. He was shocked when Mianxiao suddenly countered with a swift strike that made him dodge frantically. Enraged, he rushed again, refusing to end the fight. In madness, he screamed that revenge for the kingdom had just begun. Face-flushed, he charged in insanity. He roared about being used as cannon fodder and discarded like trash after the war. Mianxiao couldn't block in time and was kicked far away. He shouted his hatred for the world, while Mian Xiao remembered the old champion's words asking if he hated his parents. The champion once patted his head, warning not to let hatred consume him or he'd become worse than his enemies. Now Mian Xiao understood those words. The scar-faced man's eyes widened in terror, sensing something dreadful approaching. Mian Xiao thrust his sword through the enemy's stomach, ending the battle in blood. The man groaned in despair as his breath faded away. When Mian Xiao released the sword, the foe's body fell, the start and end both drenched in blood. William witnessed it all and stood up shouting, "We won!" He cheered with joy, declaring that Happy had defeated the bandits, who fled in fear as word spread the knights were coming. William softly called, "Happy!" Seeing no response, he called several more times, voice full of worry. Mian Xiao smiled and said he was only slightly hurt, telling William to go back first and have the hostess apply medicine. William looked at him silently, wanting to speak but holding it back. Then he nodded, agreeing and saying the soldiers must have arrived before trying to add something more. On the way to the scene, the knight captain noticed something strange about the eerily empty road. When he arrived, he froze at the sight before him. He saw Mian Xiao lying motionless on the ground, exclaiming in shock, "Happy face, why was he down here?" The knight captain noticed the bodies scattered around. He wondered why the bandits had all collapsed like that. Mian Xiao's actions became legend, said to have destroyed the entire gang alone. But the truth was distorted by an exaggerated soldier's tale. That man was stunned by what he saw. William stood alone on the battlefield, defeating all the bandits himself, becoming a hero. Rumors spread among knights that he was a bounty hunter. Some swore they heard in a tavern that he was actually a student. At the academy, rumors about William also spread widely. The gossip quickly reached the market, shocking everyone. Even the king heard it before the official report arrived. But despite the rising rumors, no verified report existed yet. That was right after Happy's battle. Mian Xiao cheerfully returned, running toward the farm. Exhausted yet excited, he kept running. In the prison, the scar-faced man was stunned, recalling the boy who once served him, now a knight captain. The captain stayed silent upon hearing that news. After a pause, he spoke emotionally, saying he once deeply respected that man before the rebellion. No one expected the former hero to become an exiled rebel leader. The scar-faced man furiously claimed all tragedies were caused by him. The captain remembered the massacre of the Knight unit 20 years ago after victory. The scar-faced man admitted he survived and saw the man carrying a child slaughter comrades for blocking his way. The king grew furious, called him insane, and exiled him. He was mocked, despised, lost his honor, and became everyone's laughingstock. Looking at Mian Xiao, he saw his old nightmare and challenged the captain. "Report it now, will you be exiled like me?" The captain stayed silent at those words. The man confessed in pain that he too wanted to know who that monster truly was. The captain left after promising to find out, but he suddenly stopped mid-step. He announced that no one had died, only been injured, making the scar-faced man suspect deeper motives. The captain frowned, thinking the real monster would never have spared anyone. As he walked away, the captain coldly said, "The only monster here is you." When Mian Xiao arrived, he collapsed from exhaustion. Looking at the scene, he smiled in relief. At that moment, he felt like the happiest person alive. Then the champion appeared, panicked, calling him up and tending each wound, scolding him for fighting recklessly, but Mian Xiao only smiled, realizing he must grow stronger. The champion sadly asked why he obsessed over power, saying it only made Lucas expect more. Hearing that, Mian Xiao stayed silent. His father's image slowly faded, leaving a painful emptiness. The tragic scene of his father's death appeared stabbed through and thrown into a deep ravine. From then, Mian Xiao swore to grow strong to protect his father. His bright smile hid trembling loneliness as he recalled his father's warmth, the only one he ever loved. That tragic image haunted him deeply. Mian Xiao laughed loudly but felt heavy sorrow inside. When he entered, the guards immediately grew alert and shouted for him to stop. They drew their swords to block his advance, but with one strike, Mian Xiao knocked them all down. The remaining soldiers panicked and chased after him. However, he still burst inside, shocking Winnie, who called happy amid the chaos. Ignoring all stares, Winnie rushed to hug him tightly. Being embraced by a beauty, Mian Xiao looked even more smug. Winnie gently comforted him, saying everything was fine now. The second-ranked knight signaled the soldiers to stand down. Mian Xiao raised his hand as if reaching for something invisible. He told himself to stay strong, believing the beautiful world would return, tears falling in sunlight as they stood silently in peace. The candle flickered, then went out, leaving silence behind. The kind innkeepers bid farewell. While the second-ranked knight prepared to leave, Saga hid in a tree, wishing that Slave would die so the farm could be safe. But right after, he felt uneasy imagining that man truly dead. The memory of Winnie hugging Mian Xiao made him jealous. He reassured himself that man was badly hurt and wouldn't come back. Still, Saga hesitated whether to wait until his patrol ended before leaving. In the quiet night, a soft whistling wind rose. Darkness covered everything heavily. Suddenly, a strange sound tore through the night. Saga instantly grew alert and looked down. A guard holding a torch appeared, warning Saga not to act on his own. He stressed that the real mission was to assassinate the royal family, not to save anyone. The red-eyed man coldly threatened that another violation would mean death. After speaking, he vanished into the darkness. Saga sat quietly on the branch, mind tangled in the silent night. Time passed and dawn slowly broke. A new day began as news from the royal palace arrived. The messenger read a royal summons bearing William's name. Happy Face was also mentioned. Both were ordered to come to the capital immediately to meet the king. As the carriage rolled, townsfolk buzzed about the glorious feat that even brought a porter to the palace. In a grand chamber, William had his clothes adjusted by a servant. The man patted his shoulder, saying he looked proper now. He told William he was about to be knighted by the king. He said that kneeling for the blessing would bring fame and honor, and everyone would praise him. William lowered his head, softly saying he wasn't worthy. The two men looked at him in confusion. He confessed that none of the achievements were his. Everything was thanks to Happy, while he only ran away. So he felt guilty and apologized. The man gave a faint smile. He quietly said the king already knew everything. The king intended to grant William a title, while Happy would be freed and made a trainee knight, since nobles refused to honor a slave. The tale of hero William would spread as legend and must remain a strict secret. After the man left, William sat in silence, lips pressed in thought. Soon after, William knelt in the grand hall as the king placed a sword on his shoulder, solemnly granting the title. The king declared that William had slain a demon for the realm and was worthy to join the knights. Outside, the crowd shouted William's name in loud celebration. The king continued, announcing that the accompanying slave would also be made a trainee knight. The king's gaze lingered on Mianxiao, filled with meaning and expectation. After the ceremony, the two returned to their room, maids whispering the name William A. de Trainee. William bowed and apologized, saying his carelessness over the bounty had endangered everyone. Mianxiao smiled, reassuring him that thanks to William, everything went smoothly. William blamed himself for being inexperienced and slower to react than his friend. He recalled moments of helplessness, not understanding danger or the enemy, while Mianxiao always fought firmly to protect others. He admitted Mianxiao was the strongest person he had ever known. His decisiveness came not from muscle, but from a steadfast heart. William said he was still learning from that friend. Mianxiao advised him to live true to himself, startling William. He smiled, believing they would become the most trustworthy companions. William clenched his fist, vowing not to run anymore, calling out Happy with determination. He decided to live honestly, even if he couldn't change fate. William said he would teach Happy what he knew, and hoped to learn how to grow stronger. Mianxiao looked at him in mild surprise, then he smiled brightly, saying he would share everything he knew. Excited, William invited him to visit the Night Corps, and Mianxiao agreed immediately. When they arrived, Fai's voice rang out, drawing everyone's attention. He sneered at a slave being made a trainee knight, calling it disgraceful. Fai angrily threw his sword at Mianxiao's feet. He pointed disdainfully, declaring he would prove that man unworthy. William intervened, reminding him it was the king's decree and none could oppose, but Fai mocked him for defending lowly trash. He insisted only William deserved the title of true hero. Mianxiao was called ignorant filth, a worthless nobody. William angrily told him to stop, afraid it would go too far. Seeing William's hesitation, Fai grew prouder, thinking the slave climbed up only by relying on others. Fai threatened he would make his opponent withdraw in humiliation. Mianxiao calmly told William not to worry, the match would end soon. The two stepped into the arena. Mianxiao lowered his sword tip to the ground to signal the start. The surrounding knights laughed at his stance, mocking that he didn't even know how to hold a sword. Fai smirked, taunting that his posture revealed weakness. He warned this wouldn't be a fair fight, and would show that the lowborn were only clowns. He attacked instantly, but Mianxiao blocked the strike with ease. Fai laughed, boasting that this was true knightly skill. He sneered that slaves deserved only the whip and should feel honored to taste a knight's blade. The two exchanged blows, swords slicing through air as their bodies spun across the arena. Fai slashed at his opponent's arm, mocking his slowness. The knights outside shouted, cheering for him to crush his foe. William anxiously called his friend's name, but seeing Mianxiao's calm smile, he was left speechless. Fai didn't notice and kept attacking wildly, forcing his opponent to one knee. At that moment, Mianxiao's eyes widened. He dropped his sword and leapt high. In an instant, before Fai could react, he lunged forward. A powerful punch slammed into Fai's stomach. Fai doubled over and fell under the stunned gaze of the knights. Pain surged through his body, making him curl up. The crowd began shouting, mocking Mianxiao for throwing away his sword to fight barehanded like a brute. William thought silently that they didn't understand all the earlier attacks had already been blocked. Moreover, his barehanded strike was mercy. Had he used a real sword, Fai would be dead. Fai gritted his teeth in pain, terrified by the unfamiliar horror. The punch frightened him as he felt a dreadful killing intent radiating from Mianxiao. Mianxiao stepped forward with his sword, calmly saying that fearing pain meant never winning. Then he added firmly, "If you came here to win, you must endure it." Fai was confused, as those words contradicted everything he had been taught. He snarled, mocking the trainee for daring to lecture him, but Mianxiao rushed forward. He said decisively, Let me show you. Fei tried to stand, still unaware of what was happening. Then his wooden sword was cut clean in half, silencing the whole arena. At that moment, the Royal Knight Commander entered, shouting angrily, demanding to know what they were doing. Fei trembled as Mian Xiao's wooden blade touched his neck. While the commander scolded them, he had ordered the two to be brought to him, not bullied, and asked if Fei was dissatisfied with him. Fei's face turned pale in fear as he quickly stood straight, claiming it was a misunderstanding. The others also hurried to explain, pretending to be innocent. The commander smirked and ordered them to disperse. The knights panicked and fled, leaving 3 people alone in the silent yard. After a moment, the commander returned, his voice lower. He said they would no longer face such people. Their duty was to represent the kingdom's image, not to fight or train much. William frowned, worried that their true identities would soon be exposed, turning them into mere puppets. He asked if he could secretly observe the training sessions. The commander raised an eyebrow, puzzled by his intent. William said that living falsely would only bring regret when the time came to prove himself. He didn't want to keep running. He wanted to become someone respected by both pen and sword. The commander grimaced, lamenting that the king had created a false hero, but now the real one stood before him. He glanced at Mian Xiao and asked if he felt the same. Mian Xiao smiled and nodded, confirming they had promised to grow stronger together. The commander paused, his eyes flickering as if recalling something. He had read Mian Xiao's file, learning that he was a slave raised by Luke Huston since childhood. Another knight corrected him, saying the boy had actually been trained by gladiators in Lucas Denoy's arena. Those gladiators were once criminals, but many had been incredibly strong. During the war, that arena gathered survivors from battlefields, meaning Mian Xiao had survived hell itself, becoming the strongest among them. The commander stroked his chin, regretting that Lucas was dead. Otherwise, he could have asked directly about him. Mian Xiao's record was nearly blank, forcing him to order further investigation, suspecting a hidden secret. The report said Lucas's territory was vast, and he had traveled widely. Perhaps clues could be found by following his traces. However, such investigation was beyond the knight's authority, unless there was a special reason. The commander pondered, noticing the dates and locations oddly matched a mysterious event. Back in the present, he quietly observed Mian Xiao, deciding to keep watching before acting. Even so, he sensed these two would soon cause another major incident. He smiled, thinking like attracts like their youthful vigor was truly worth expecting. Thanks to them, the flame of determination once thought extinguished in him reignited. He felt his whole body awaken, the knight's blood boiling again. After careful thought, he decided to let William freely observe the training sessions before deciding the next step. The scene shifted to the small, humble house where Mian Xiao lived. He excitedly showed the certificate. "Grandpa, Grandma, I've become a trainee knight." The old couple widened their eyes in disbelief. Mian Xiao asked about Winnie. The old man said she had gone to work, while the old woman read softly, "Slave freed, free citizen." He pulled out a large reward pouch, saying he would give it all to them. Mr. Winnie tearfully held the money bag, while his wife was speechless with joy. After giving it, Mian Xiao politely asked permission to go train with William. The old woman happily agreed, since he was now free. Hearing that, he ran off excitedly, promising to work when he returned. The old man laughed proudly, calling him my grandson. The woman sighed about time passing, and he said, "He's no longer a child, he's our pride." Mian Xiao sang as he ran to meet William. In the training yard, the trainee knights were practicing diligently. Mian Xiao pointed and whispered, "William, watch that one has the best." He explained to focus on distance judgment and balance movement, not just technique. William eagerly interrupted, "I get it, keep balance, then strike at the right time, right?" He noted that stance was different, faster, and half a beat more precise. Even with equal speed, that timing advantage always gave him the edge. Mian Xiao softly praised, "Your observation is excellent. Keep it up. When I heal, we'll spar together." William nodded intently, eyes sharp as a hawk, muttering analysis non-stop, his aura making others uneasy. A while later, they sat together in the study. William pointed to a letter. "This one is A," and Mian Xiao immediately repeated, "Got it." William smiled and pointed again. "Then what about this sentence?" Mian Xiao read fluently, "True courage lies not in the sword, but in the heart that chooses justice." William asked in surprise, "That's right, how did you know?" He replied cheerfully, "I guessed from how you spoke and the meaning before it." They stepped outside. Mian Xiao looked up and exclaimed, "That's west, the sun's there, it must be past noon." They switched to math, William posed. 3 loaves a day for 20 days for 400 people. How many loaves? He was stunned when Mian Xiao quickly gave the correct answer, realizing his friend's solid basics and incredible self-learning. Seeing William's focused face, Mian Xiao softly said, "William, you're really absorbed now." William smiled, ending the session and saying they'd meet again tomorrow. He looked up to find the moon already high. He was surprised it was already night. He ran home happily while William watched with a gentle, understanding smile. He gripped his book tightly, telling himself inwardly, He was determined not to be left behind. Winnie looked up to see the night had fallen. She sighed about the danger of going out at night and decided to stay at the pharmacy. Winnie sat quietly, thinking of Mianxiao and his audience with the king, sighing that she still hadn't returned home. A sudden knock came at the door. Winnie turned, stepped closer, and called out. She said the shop was already closed. Mianxiao appeared with a bright smile, coming to escort her home. On the way, she asked why, and he replied he'd been sent to pick her up. He added that he wanted to invite her to celebrate. Winnie was puzzled, not understanding what celebration day meant. She curiously asked if there was some good news. He proudly revealed that he had been appointed a trainee knight. Winnie was astonished and praised him, saying the news was truly worth celebrating. She excitedly said she wanted to do something for him. Mianxiao said just seeing everyone happy was enough, adding that his grandma was overjoyed too. He told Winnie not to overwork herself and promised to protect her. Winnie stayed silent for a while without replying. She gently placed her hand on his back and closed her eyes. He was surprised by her gesture. She tearfully thanked him, saying it was the first time she had looked forward to something like this. He simply looked at her in silence. Winnie wiped her tears and asked about his health. He said he was better thanks to the medicine. She smiled with relief, congratulating him, and he softly thanked her. At the farm, the old man with silver hair joyfully called out to Winnie. She asked in surprise what was going on. He said it was a celebration party. Then everyone appeared, and Saga shook Mianxiao's hand, congratulating him on joining the Knight Order. Winnie, sweating nervously, asked the old man why so many people came when she thought it was a small meal. He cheerfully said he had invited everyone from the farm to the feast. He explained he had called the butcher, the fruit seller, the blacksmith, and spent all the reward money on the party. She asked in shock about that reward money. Mianxiao explained it was the reward for being promoted to trainee knight. Winnie was stunned to realize the whole celebration was paid for by Mianxiao, while the old man happily joined the party. The old man laughed loudly amid the wine. He was lifted up as everyone toasted to Mianxiao becoming a knight. Mianxiao clapped along with the joyful cheers. The night sky glowed with shimmering stars. Winnie watched him surrounded by people offering congratulations. The old man called her, and she wearily put a hand to her forehead to answer. He spoke seriously about Mianxiao's past as a slave and declared him family. He recalled when Mianxiao had been covered in wounds, explaining that the feast was everyone's way of showing love. Winnie gently scolded him for not saying so earlier. He only looked at Mianxiao and said he wanted him to feel what it meant to live together. Mianxiao scratched his neck awkwardly in the crowd. Winnie smiled softly and tenderly. William arrived, and his father stepped forward to apologize to Mianxiao for his past wrongs. Mianxiao listened quietly. He smiled, saying he held no resentment. William stood beside him, touched, while Ellie offered a hand-embroidered scarf in thanks. Mianxiao bowed to thank Ellie, and the silver-haired old man pulled William's father to drink and celebrate together. The corpse collector joked that after this feast, he might as well dig his own grave. He grumbled irritably at the silver-haired old man. The old man raised his cup, promising Saga a grand feast like this if he achieved great merit. After saying so, he complained they were out of wine and went to fetch more. Saga was lost in thought when a man in black appeared, warning him about a plot to assassinate the king during the tournament 2 months later. On the arena stage, 2 knights faced each other tensely. It was the annual knight training tournament. The stands were packed with spectators watching the fierce battle. The official knights stood in rows while the top 10 trainees prepared to fight for selection. A blonde trainee faced a black-haired one, both seeking to prove themselves before real knights. The king watched silently, knowing this was a stepping stone for promotion, so the competition was fierce. Mianxiao attentively read the announcement board, seemingly about the match list. A brown-haired man suddenly mocked him, sneering that he couldn't read. He arrogantly warned Mianxiao not to dream of joining, saying his family had heavily invested in the tournament. He bragged that his family sponsored the entire event from the grounds to the prizes. He proudly declares this is his own home ground, then mocks that a slave like Mianxiao appearing would dirty the stage. The air around Mianxiao thickens as his cold eyes fix on him. He clenches his fist, saying all clans share the same contempt. He keeps taunting, recalling Mianxiao's humiliating defeat during training. He feigns regret, comparing Mianxiao to a child learning to walk. Mianxiao calmly replies he hadn't planned to compete but now feels like joining. The brown-haired one freezes, then pretends to stay calm. He turns away, waving mockingly that Mianxiao isn't qualified to compete. Mianxiao silently watches their laughter as William reads the new contest rule. It's a knowledge test, Mianxiao asks, and William explains it judges understanding first. William suspects the host clan wants to eliminate Mianxiao. Elsewhere, the brown-haired boy calls the blonde one and hands him a strange paper. He says it's the answer key, but the blonde boy firmly refuses. The brown-haired boy mocks that one wrong answer could cost him first place. He warns that would shame his family, making the blonde hesitate. The blonde finally snatches the answer sheet. The brown-haired one watches amused. He puts his arm around the blonde, tempting him that allied clans leading together would look perfect. Elsewhere, Mianxiao laughs that the brown-haired one made him want to compete for real. William looks down at the paper, thoughtful. After a moment, he suggests giving it a try. William admits Mianxiao lacks academic basics and a week is too short to catch up, but he insists there's still a way by predicting the examiner's mindset. He recalls his college days when he topped classes by understanding question logic. William says even with slim odds, guessing right could still pass. He emphasizes that full effort is still essential. Mianxiao silently accepts the advice. A week later, results show Mianxiao passed, barely above the cutoff. The camp's atmosphere grows heavy and tense. A month before the tournament, angry crowds protest, the brown-haired boy's father shouting it's fraud. Other nobles rage too, the blonde's father refusing to accept his son losing to a former slave. The blonde grips the paper, recalling Mianxiao's hard study with William but stays silent. Some recall seeing Mianxiao studying late and feel ashamed. The judges nervously debate with contestants, focusing on the essay part. Mianxiao stands calmly, showing heroic reasoning and spirit. He states that in war, the core is the will to protect people, not killing. He quotes great warriors to support his point. Mianxiao concludes firmly that strategy exists to save, not destroy. The knight captain is astonished by his thoughts. A judge reminds him the host demanded Mianxiao get low marks. The knight captain falls silent in thought. He closes his eyes, then decides to defy the order. He secretly adds bonus points for Mianxiao. He watches Mianxiao, admitting he was wrong to wish him out. He realizes Mianxiao fights with more than just strength. He understands the boy carries the true spirit of a warrior. He recalls Lu Castan and understands why that man once risked his life to protect Mianxiao. He clenches his fist, eager to witness the boy's journey. Mianxiao turns to ask William if he'll join the selection test. William hesitantly admits he lacks confidence, feeling weaker than official knights. Mianxiao asks if he'd join once he reaches their level. The brown-haired one folds his arms, sneering that Mianxiao truly plans to train for the test. People whisper as they watch Mianxiao practicing swordplay under William's guidance. Some admire that it's an honor to be trained directly by hero William. The brown-haired one scoffs, mocking Mianxiao's clumsy stance and swings. He thinks he'll crush him in the next tournament and leaves disdainfully. Mianxiao cheerfully boasts he's copying William exactly, making William laugh awkwardly. William can only hold his head, realizing Mianxiao's posture is completely wrong. Mianxiao looks at his wooden sword and suggests sparring to fix his form. He insists he'll adjust his fighting style to William's pace and train together all month. William asks in surprise if he can really mimic him perfectly. Mianxiao eagerly raises his sword to spar, while the brown-haired one afar chats about rest. William focuses seriously on analyzing his opponent's movements. Mianxiao strikes fast and William blocks instantly. William counterattacks fiercely, regaining control. Mianxiao steps back, adjusting his breath. William lowers his stance, still watching to assess. He comments the last strike was mistimed and wasted energy. Mianxiao focuses more, starting to blend dodging and rhythm prediction. William grows tired but realizes real sparring deepens his combat understanding. He forms a principle it's a battle of wits, not strength. He analyzes attack, counter, defense, tempo, and tactics. Feints, breaks, and counters are repeatedly tested. William gradually sees Mianxiao fights by reading battle patterns, not random swings. He smiles, realizing he now understands his opponent better. They alternate endlessly between offense, defense, and counter. William loses focus briefly as a blur of images distracts him. He notices the coming strike seems short and changes his plan. William firmly counterattacks, trusting his judgment. Then he freezes as Mianxiao's sword tip touches his neck. William looks down in shock, realizing he was deceived. He laughs, understanding Mianxiao feinted, then suddenly redirected the thrust. William exhales in relief. Then he smiles brightly, Mianxiao's image shimmering in the mist. He announces the result his 313th victory. Mianxiao beams, congratulating William. William rests a hand on his shoulder, realizing he won by a hair. He sits down to rest, aware the official test is only a day away. For a month, William has trained himself relentlessly. William watches Mianxiao's back, filled with awe. He realizes Mianxiao has copied his entire style, strategy, and even mistakes. Even the shoulder injury is mimicked exactly, leaving William baffled. Mianxiao turns back cheerfully, suggesting they rest early for tomorrow's evaluation. William agrees immediately without objection. The knight captain sternly orders that William cannot join the evaluation. He says William only needs to stand beside the king for ceremonial duty, not to fight. He notes that if William enters the field, his true ability will be exposed to everyone. William bows silently without reply. He clenches his fists, admitting he's still far weaker than other knights despite all effort. Even so, William firmly expresses his wish to join the evaluation battle. He says he wants to face his own weakness instead of avoiding it. The captain sighs helplessly, remarking on his stubbornness. Finally, he exhales and silently agrees as dawnlight breaks a new day. Advertisement line inserted, unrelated to the main story. At dawn, all candidates gather in the stadium for the evaluation. The brown-haired boy's father sternly demands fair scoring without bias. The knights line up in 2 rows awaiting the opening match. The first match is announced William versus the second-ranked knight. Their names echo amid the crowd's cheers. The knights murmur in surprise that Commander William joins what should have been a demo match. In the supervision tent, the captain instructs the second-ranked knight to go easy. He stresses William has spirit but not yet the true strength of other knights. He further tells the knight to finish quickly to avoid drawing attention. Although William has solid basics, he's still unfit for prolonged combat. The second-ranked knight nods and the captain watches seriously. William avoids eye contact, his gaze clouded with confusion. The second-ranked knight grips his wooden sword, glancing at Mian Xiao as the referee raises the flag, recognizing the one who once defeated the jesters. William suddenly charges toward the second-ranked knight. He strikes so fast the opponent's sword flies away. The referee warns William for attacking early. He bows apologetically as the blonde's father laughs mockingly. He made a basic mistake. The brown-haired father feigns sympathy, but mocks that he acted quite well. Sweat drips down the second-ranked knight's cheek. He turns stiffly toward the captain, who is equally shocked. The captain looks astonished at William's hidden strength. The referee raises the red flag to officially start the duel. He recalls William's words that he would become someone unshakable. The captain watches intently, realizing those words are coming true. William dashes forward, attacking his opponent. Mian Xiao observes while the crowd murmurs about his sudden movement. He recalls their training and recognizes William's technique, a fusion of speed, counterattack, and flawless transition. Mian Xiao folds his arms, convinced that sword style belongs only to William. He laughs, admitting it's beyond him to perfectly imitate it. The second-ranked knight frowns, remarking William is still not fast enough. He dodges William's strikes skillfully. The captain watches, noting William's power still isn't outstanding. William grits his teeth in fierce sword clash, slowly being pushed back. The two keep colliding, pressure and tactics shifting constantly. Every move they make is perfectly precise. Both swing at once, their blades slicing through the air. Their swords pass each other, leaving a tense silence. The second-ranked knight looks at William with thoughtful determination. With every choice, William always takes the hard but righteous path. The knight raises his sword in defense as the battle seems ordinary. He's stunned by William's fierce combat, while the crowd holds its breath, doubting it's just a demo. The knight draws back his sword. Realizing William hasn't gone all out, one strike could end it. He recalls the strict warning from the knight captain. The second-ranked knight grips his sword tightly, breathing heavily. William is startled when his opponent takes the initiative. He frowns, lost in deep thought. William quickly senses something off the knight's glance toward the captain reveals he's holding back. He grips his sword tighter, hoping to see his foe fight seriously. William decides to unleash his full strength for a finishing strike. The second-ranked knight suddenly lowers his sword, whispering, "I surrender." William freezes in disbelief as the referee declares the exhibition over. The stands erupt in applause and cheers. The referee asks them to shake hands, while other knights whisper in confusion about the surrender. William props himself up on his sword, trembling, then steadies. He closes his eyes, blaming himself for still being immature and not bringing out his opponent's best. The knight captain secretly smiles, impressed William exceeded expectations. He turns to praise the second-ranked knight for stopping at the right time and acting well. The knight replies firmly, "No, I truly can't continue." The captain is surprised by the unexpected answer. The knight's legs tremble as he struggles to stay upright. He recalls William's first strike landing on his leg. William had kept attacking his ankles, weakening him gradually. He pressed forward relentlessly with strong, continuous strikes. William's spinning slash sliced the air, forcing his opponent to bear the pain on his left leg. The knight pants, explaining he surrendered because his left leg was too injured to go on. The blonde remarks that William had many chances to finish but lacked decisiveness. William turns slightly toward Mian Xiao upon hearing that. Mian Xiao, arms crossed, says perhaps William waited for a powerful strike to counter effectively. The blonde frowns in surprise, while Finn beside him widens his eyes. Mian Xiao chuckles softly, eyes playful toward them. Finn angrily yells that Mian Xiao knows nothing yet dares to speak. Mian Xiao stays silent, making Finn freeze and sweat. Finn suddenly recalls his own fight with Mian Xiao, feeling a strange sense of empathy. Despite being annoyed by Mian Xiao's cheerfulness, Finn can't truly hate that harmless face. He clicks his tongue irritably, turns away, and mutters like an old friend. Finn half closes his eyes, explaining few get trained like William, most just do chores, then grumbles about himself and his family. Mian Xiao beams and invites Finn to train with William. Finn spins around, shouting in shock, "What? With William?" In his mind, he screams, forcing himself to stay calm before reluctantly agreeing. He replies sarcastically that joining will only lower the standard. A black-haired boy peeks in, asking to join too. Then a light-haired one raises his hand to join. Soon the whole group crowds to train together, causing chaos. Finn, furious, shoves them away, shouting that he had to rely on a servant to get William's training. The brown-haired group watches from afar, seeing the noisy scene around Mian Xiao. The brown-haired team leader sneers, prompting two behind him to react angrily. The king inhales deeply, readying for the next rounds as golden horns echo everywhere. The sound lingers, spreading across the arena. The brown-haired boy lifts his head proudly and steps onto the stage arrogantly. The knight captain frowns while the blonde sighs in discontent. A knight whispers he looks like a real one. Another replies his father paid for that. The brown-haired one arrogantly declares hell eliminate the weak. He beckons Mianxiao to the field, spitting insults. The knight captain scowls at his insolence. The brown-haired father proudly praises his son, claiming he raised him worthy of a knight's title. The brown-haired boy and Mianxiao face each other, swords raised. He licks his lips excitedly, threatening to crush his opponent. The blonde calls out to Finn from behind, making him turn. He asks Finn about his past match with Mianxiao if he truly defeated him easily. Finn startles, snapping, "Huh? What kind of question is that?" The blonde watches Finn's reaction closely, waiting for an answer. He says he personally saw that fight, making Finn break into a cold sweat. Finn recalls himself screaming, refusing to lose to Mianxiao. The blonde grips his sword, uneasy and suspicious of the opponent. He looks down, suspecting Mianxiao held back. Finn angrily denies it and tells him to stop asking. He provokes, "So you want to beat him again if there's a rematch?" Finn freezes, his face turning pale. He sweats and stares at Mianxiao like seeing a monster. The blonde watches him walk away, admitting he always feels uneasy whenever he sees Mianxiao. Finn doesn't argue, coldly saying he's just an idiot. He walks toward Mianxiao holding his sword, murmuring, "This match will prove everything." William, watching below, suggests Happy use only swordsmanship in upcoming battles. He sternly adds that no matter how talented Happy is, without being a swordsman, they won't acknowledge him. William recalls the knight's intense training atmosphere. He says calmly, "Just show them why they must recognize you, no need to pretend weakness. Prove yourself from the start, the upcoming test will change everything." William remembers the mockery Finn, the brown-haired boy, and other knights threw at Happy. He says they still see him as a servant turn this match into a chance to overturn that view. William smiles confidently, declaring, "This arena was made for you," words echoing in Mianxiao's ears. The brown-haired boy smirks at Happy's stance, mocking that he finally trained seriously. He adds scornfully that it won't get him far. He recalls his father's gleeful words that the path is ready and rewards await. Mianxiao lowers his sword, using basic skill that stuns his foe. The brown-haired one is shaken by his speed. Their swords clash, echoing through the arena. Mianxiao tilts aside, raising his blade to block. The brown-haired boy manages to parry the strike. He flushes red with anger, roaring furiously. With eyes full of rage, he points his sword straight at his opponent. The brown-haired one pours all strength into his blade. Mianxiao stays calm, watching every move. They charge simultaneously, unleashing decisive strikes. Mianxiao strikes precisely, leaving the brown-haired boy frozen as blood trickles from a small cut on his forehead. The stands fall silent, all eyes fixed on him. The knight captain focuses, realizing the blow hit the head. The second-ranked knight quietly judges the strike as flawless. William smiles slightly, satisfied with the perfect result. Finn stares wide-eyed, and the blonde exclaims the match ended too cleanly. The brown-haired father stiffens in shock, face twisted. The referee raises the yellow flag, loudly declaring victory. Guy Am glares in disbelief, while the knight captain grits his teeth, thinking, "What the hell just happened?" The trembling referee sweats, mentally screaming regret for taking bribes over 10 years. He recalls the promised fortune and tries to justify continuing the match after briefly losing focus. He glances at the brown-haired boy, claiming that as long as he stands, he still wins, angered by his own shaking hand. The brown-haired one roars furiously, raising his sword and shouting, "Hell show his true strength." William frowns, wondering if they really plan to pretend nothing happened. The brown-haired boy grits his teeth, seeing William's gaze, believing he's behind all this. He mutters his plan to dodge and counter with a decisive slash. But Mianxiao cuts his back, making him scream, "You bastard!" The crowd gasps at Mianxiao's skill, whispering he's no mere rookie. The brown-haired boy, enraged with shame, vows to unleash a move no one's seen. Before he finishes speaking, Mianxiao's blade is already at his neck. He panics, grabbing for his opponent's hilt. But Mianxiao strikes his vital point, making him collapse. The referee rushes in, yelling to stop, pretending the fighter's belt came loose. He bites his lip, cursing himself. "What are you waiting for? Finish him!" Outside, the blonde watches closely, realizing the skill gap is vast. Mianxiao could dominate even with a stick. William smiles faintly, acknowledging Happy has again exceeded all expectations. This win is well-deserved. The brown-haired father stands frozen, stammering in disbelief. Mianxiao tilts his head calmly, staring at his trembling opponent. His eyes question why the referee hasn't ended the match. He observes the brown-haired boy's wounds, realizing in real combat he'd already be dead. He narrows his eyes, focusing his gaze. Mianxiao speaks coolly. "I heard you're one of the best knights?" The brown-haired boy looks startled by the sudden question. Mianxiao smirks, "But no matter how I see it, you're still at the bottom." The brown-haired one shouts, "Are you insane?" Mianxiao recalls his observations during training, saying he's watched everyone for a month and noticed the boy's confidence and instinct. He concludes that arrogance makes others yield before him, even when they're stronger. Finn freezes, recalling Mianxiao once said the same to him, realizing he'd been spared on purpose. The brown-haired one, enraged, charges at Mianxiao, shouting, "Shut up! What do you know?" Mianxiao calmly raises his sword in guard. The brown-haired boy stops cold, face pale as death. In that instant, Mianxiao seems monstrous, coldly mocking that his opponent's fighting spirit is utterly broken. The brown-haired boy screams, swinging his sword wildly while shouting profanities. At that moment, Mianxiao delivers a decisive slash. The blade flashes past as the brown-haired boy watches in horror. William's eyes widen, realizing the opponent's sword has broken. Everything happened as he expected. The brown-haired boy stands frozen, staring at his shattered weapon. Mianxiao drives his sword firmly into the ground. He rests his hand on the hilt and calmly says, "If you want, I can let you have the first match." The referee raises his flag and shouts, "Happy wins! I've done all I can!" The brown-haired father collapses, foaming at the mouth, unconscious. The brown-haired boy kneels, trembling with both hands on the ground. Mianxiao's voice echoes, "From now on, don't call me a slave. Doing so only disgraces your own knightly honor." After the match, he sits down and scratches his neck, asking William, "Did I really have to say that? Winning wasn't enough?" William answers firmly, "Yes, victory alone isn't enough." He explains that Happy proved not only strength, but also the character, restraint, and will of a true knight. William tells him to look around after saying those words. Mianxiao chuckles and turns to see the crowd in awe. He's stunned to find every knight showing respect and acknowledgement. Amid thunderous applause, Mianxiao stands tall under their admiration. He smiles brightly toward William. William gives a thumbs up in praise. From the crowd, a hand rises, asking to be the next challenger. Mianxiao turns toward the voice of challenge. The blonde steps forward, declaring hell fight Happy since his own opponent withdrew. The knight captain's face darkens, realizing the evaluation is descending into chaos. He glances at the furious brown-haired father being carried away. Then he looks at the trembling referee clutching both flags, proof the judges were bribed. His gaze shifts to the blonde, loudly challenging among trainees, stirring more uproar. He frowns, wrinkles deepening, muttering that they've all gone mad. He grits his teeth and clenches his fists, wanting to stop everything and retrain them from scratch. But he restrains himself, staying calm, realizing everyone has their reasons. The blonde steps up to face Mianxiao, ready for the new match. The second-ranked knight, William, and Finn all watch eagerly, while the referee trembles with tension. The king commands loudly, "Continue the match." The blonde tells Mianxiao firmly that his power isn't rumor and his skill is unpredictable. He declares, "So fight me for real." The blonde continues passionately, not noticing William signaling X repeatedly, urging Mianxiao to go all out. Finn stares, shocked that he looks so serious, like a different person. Mianxiao and the blonde raise their swords, facing each other as the crowd waits. Like the academy itself, Happy is now not only acknowledged but also an inspiration to all. The blonde grips his sword tightly, eyes focused and tense. He instantly lunges, his blade slicing the air. Mianxiao lifts his sword to block the powerful strike. The blonde twists his sword upward, readying the next blow. In Mianxiao's eyes, the reflection of the opponent's blade gleams coldly. He swiftly evades each attack direction. William gapes in astonishment. Every move is smooth and precise, like a true knight. The blonde steps back, feeling the wall behind him and thinking there's no retreat, only forward. Mianxiao suddenly lunges forward to counterattack. The blonde frowns in assessment, impressed by the flawless transition, lips curling in excitement. He realizes that though Mianxiao learns frighteningly fast, his own foundation remains stronger. The blonde shouts and unleashes a finishing blow without mercy. Mianxiao instantly raises his sword to block with flawless precision. The blonde widens his eyes, stunned by his opponent's reaction. Mianxiao's eyes curve coldly, carrying the demeanor of a true knight. A heavy clash echoes across the arena. The referee leans over and asks the blonde, "You okay?" Mianxiao rests his hand on the sword hilt and calmly says, "Your head's off." The blonde falls back in shock, clutching his neck and screaming. Mianxiao laughs and explains, "Just kidding, you only fainted." He gradually calms down and looks at his opponent with respect. He recalls the instant he tried to strike, only for Mianxiao to counter in a flash. The scene of the sword hilt striking his neck remains vivid in his mind. The blonde's eyes widen in horror, realizing he lost completely in an instant. Mianxiao sees him touch the wound and praises his near-perfect skill. Then he narrows his eyes and adds, "But your problem is using only one sword style." He analyzes that every blonde's move is repetitive, unchanged in training or real battle. Mianxiao compares. When two swordsmen fight, the one who dies is the one unprepared for a new strike. The blonde lowers his head, sighing that all his efforts feel shattered. Mianxiao smiles and corrects, "Not shattered broken limits. Broaden your view." The blonde girl stiffens upon hearing his words. They exchange glances amid a gloomy atmosphere. She bows to William, admitting she fought her own way. He replies, "It's fine." William praises that she did well for her first match. Happy points behind, saying he's found William's next opponent. William is surprised as Happy explains more blondes appear. A line confirms Happy's participation in the evaluation round. The knight captain places his hand on the table, smiling in satisfaction. A second-row knight quietly turns to look at him. Then he smiles faintly and turns away. Winnie reminds them the exam is near. The old lady plans to buy meat. The seller greets her. Ellie nervously picks a dress to cheer her brother. Mother says William won't join. Ellie quickly says she'll cheer for Happy instead of William. Saga stares intently at a small scale in front of him. He silently reads the message advising preparation for assassination. The elder Risha approaches and asks Saga what the shard says. He replies it's just a random cloth piece, then asks if the elder needs something. The elder calmly says it's nothing important. He pulls out a skull pendant necklace and raises it. He explains that those who deal often with the dead get haunted, so this protects them. He gives Saga the necklace as a reward for hard work. Saga puts it on, gratefully saying it's exactly what he needed. The elder reminds him money is more important and tells him to prepare to follow. In the foggy forest, Red-Eye hears noise. A knight reports a murderer and calls for alarm. Red-Eye strikes down the messenger coldly. Karina appears behind the knight's corpse, declaring she'll slay the king alone after the group's breakup. In memory, a blue-robed man stabs a green-eyed man, then is imprisoned and hung upside down in the dungeon. Red-Eye coldly interrogates who brought the royals into the arena. The weak prisoner answers Lucas then is brutally beaten by Red-Eye. Red-Eye realizes the green-eyed man is lying and denies he's a real noble. Happy's frightened illusion appears, followed by Lucas Tan's sly grin. Lucas Tan kneels before the king, takes the blame, calming the king's rage, and dies to end the case. Red-Eye leans in, saying the case isn't over as they still hunt the true killer. He strikes the prisoner's stomach, and coldly reveals they aren't knights but a faction aiming to destroy the royals, whose plan failed when another group acted first. Red-Eye recalls infiltrating the knights and nearly being exposed while enemies stalk the royals. He once hid behind cargo crates, evading searches from patrolling soldiers. He orders to move out, holding a lantern and gazing out the window. Saga and the elder Risha stare at the corpse on the ground, feeling emptiness. They fail to find the royal body and decide to stop investigating. The elder quietly watches Saga. Red-Eye warns coldly that continued chaos will ruin the assassination plan. The green-eyed man realizes countless assassin groups are lurking everywhere. He bows, thinking the kingdom is already rotten beyond saving. Red-Eye forces him to confess who killed the royals. After silence, he reveals Karina, who posed as a bandit to kill the king. Once asked to join, called him leader, then sneaked into the city, captured a noble, plucked his hair, and dragged him to the sewers. She then sold that noble to the arena, where his pleas were ignored and he was treated as merchandise. In the arena, the noble shouted his innocence, but the crowd mocked and scorned him. A blue-haired man sneered about the downfall of royal blood. Red-Eye wonders why Karina targeted the royals' hatred, mission, or espionage. The green-eyed man sadly replies she never revealed her reason. Karina sneers cruelly, comparing killing royals to slaughtering pigs for hunger. She staggers away, hair disheveled. Red-Eye coldly blames himself for not dealing with her sooner, letting things spiral. Karina sharply asks who he is and how he knows her. Her gaze stops on his arm as he draws a sharp dagger. Red-Eye suddenly throws the knife. Karina tilts to block with her sword. She notices the weapon isn't knight-issued. The blade sinks deep into the wet grass. She ponders, more certain he isn't a knight. Red-Eye attacks fiercely with chains. Karina dodges each strike agilely, confirming he belongs to no faction. Her eyes gleam with interest, daring him to prove himself. Red-Eye hesitates briefly at her reckless attitude. Omitted irrelevant part. A strong swing knocks off Red-Eye's mask. Karina is shocked to see his true face. She sees the scars and mockingly asks if he enjoys self-torture, pressing her blade to his neck. He replies firmly that they share the same goal, Karina repeats in disbelief. Red-Eye warns that her rash acts will doom the rebellion as security tightens. Karina smirks and asks if his faction is capable enough. He asserts the plan to assassinate the king is ready, as long as she doesn't interfere. She lowers her head in doubt about his reliability. Karina raises her sword, requesting to join the plan, agreeing to wait until Action Day, saying she must board a new ship to survive. Red-Eye replies the leader will decide, and tells her to follow him to meet. Karina tilts her head in surprise, asking again about the leader. Torches burning along the earthen wall create a ritualistic scene. She is pressed against the wall by the leader, who coldly grants approval and tells her not to fear. Karina trembles all over, her eyes dazed in shock. The leader releases her and orders her to leave. He instructs her to serve beside his son as a true servant. Karina softly murmurs the name Saga. At that moment, Saga sits in a carriage, sweating, hearing a sudden voice. The elder corpse collector replies, introducing her as a short-term worker. Karina tilts her head, staring curiously at Saga, asking what kind of person the old man's son is. Karina quietly tells him she'll stay until the duel day. Dawn brightens the arena, only 3 days before the battle. Under the moonlight, nobles meet tensely, furious that slaves and commoners are allowed to fight, calling it disgraceful. A red-robed man argues William differs from slaves, and a brown-robed one agrees due to his talent and academic fame. A black-haired man recalls William's role in catching the bandits. Nobles agree, though some suspect deceit. The curly-haired boy's father slams the table, asking if they were tricked, and proposes to crush William in the coming match. A brown-haired man nervously asks if everything was fake. That remark angers another, feeling all their past efforts were in vain. William's father rages, refusing to believe someone like his son could achieve such feats. A gray-haired noble coldly warns that accusations need proof. He gradually calms, his voice lowering. He says his son knows both William and the slave, then recalls the name Happy the Underground Arena Champion. The truth emerges. He was once weak, dying in misery, but he returned, killed 3 mercenaries, and wiped out the bandits. Guards confirm William only registered for the bounty hunt but didn't truly fight. The brown-haired man then shares his son overheard a talk between the captain and the commander. In it, they said William had never even held a sword. He recounts that William was actually an amateur painted as a hero. The brown-haired father freezes, asking if that battle was staged. Other nobles join in, many confirming they'd heard of that slave. Some add he was famous in underground fights. But after the prince's death incident, he was nearly executed. Fearing implication, they all stayed silent. They finally agree to expose fake William, letting the slave vanish from the kingdom. Some worry, saying William is now a knight, and opposing him means defying the crown. One suggests staging a fake kidnapping on the duel day. They plan to hire exiled bandits to act as kidnappers, forcing William to play hero again. The man laughs wickedly, saying if William refuses, he'll be called coward. If he agrees, he'll fall into their trap. The nobles discuss and unanimously approve, claiming it's for their honor. At that moment, Happy jumps with joy, and Ellie cheers in agreement. Happy takes a deep breath, puffing his cheeks as if warming up. He puts all his strength into pushing down the big tree before him. Small fruits fall heavily to the ground. Ellie happily picks them up, and Happy quickly helps her. They throw the gathered fruits into the fire together. The flames flare up, burning the shells as both playfully stomp around the embers. The shells crack open, releasing a gentle, sweet aroma. They smile in satisfaction and enjoy the simple meal together. Winnie softly thanks Ellie for helping her pick herbs. Ellie smiles, saying she just wanted to play with Happy. Winnie chuckles, thinking both look happy watching the falling leaves. Under the tree, they play in the wind, Ellie marvels, and Winnie thinks they truly resemble each other. Suddenly, someone calls Ellie's name. Her mother tells her to go home. She waves goodbye to Happy and Winnie before leaving. Ellie cheerfully waves, promising to dress beautifully tomorrow to cheer for Happy. After Ellie leaves, both Happy and Winnie fall silent. She asks his thoughts before the match, and he happily says he's fine and excited. Winnie gazes at his bright smile, lost in thought. She worries aloud whether he struggles in the Night Corps, and if that's truly what he wants. She whispers that his life has always been about fighting, but now that he's healed, that purpose may be gone. Happy keeps smiling, saying this place is nothing like the old arena. He picks up a stick and calmly recalls that in the arena, death surrounded him even without desire to kill. He remembers those who once hated him falling with puzzled faces, a thought haunting him. Happy affirms that here everyone's alive and he can learn and change with them. He finally says emotionally that he loves this life more than anywhere else. Seeing his joy, Winnie sighs in relief. Believing no bloody war will come among knights, she recalls the 2 decades of peace and tells him to come eat dinner. The next day, the match begins, knights gather, and in a small house, a voice asks, "Who's there?" A man enters, saying he carries a letter left by Lucas Tan before dying, stunning Winnie. He asks if a slave named Happy lives there. Winnie turns to her grandmother, who nods, saying he was once Happy's master, the arena overseer. The messenger says he's from a distant domain, and that Happy was once a church-registered slave sold to a farm. Winnie firmly says he's no longer a slave but a trainee knight, and offers to take the letter. The man refuses, saying he must deliver it directly and privately to Happy, then leaves. After he departs, an hour before the match, the stands are packed. People discuss William, and the king wonders where the princes and princesses are. The queen assures they're on the way. The captain steadies William, telling him to stay composed. He nods firmly as everyone takes position. The curly-haired and blonde fighters also appear among the spectators. Ellie spots Happy and shouts his name joyfully, face glowing. Winnie's grandfather smiles, praising how dignified he looks. Elsewhere, Karina hides in bushes, noting the fight's about to start. A bound brown-haired man asks his comrades, who reply, the nobles are faking their kidnapping. A member of Lucas Tan's faction observes, confirming they're not in the Knights area but the central stage. From a nearby tower, the view spans the whole ground. A servant informs the prince the match is starting and asks if he's ready. Suddenly, the prince notices something strange, eyes widening in horror. He sees the leader murdering another prince. When discovered, the leader throws a knife, killing the witness instantly. Blood floods the room before he leaves. Karina recalls the past, teasing Saga that he's watched her since the soldiers attacked William. She narrows her eyes, asking why he once attacked her at the farm. Then Karina suddenly remembers someone and softly asks, So he really became a knight? Saga looks down at the crowd, calmly saying William was promoted through fake merits, which is why nobles dare plot. Karina smiles briefly, replying of course, since he never belonged to that class. Saga admits he once thought she'd kill William, but was surprised when she walked away. She curiously asks why he thought that. Saga slowly explains that she'd acted brutally before, and at that time, William was claiming reward and reporting the case, so he couldn't be entirely innocent. Karina says flatly that's simply her usual way of doing things. Saga falls silent, unable to comprehend the strange woman before him. She coldly confesses that making others fear her is her pleasure. Her words leave Saga deep in silent thought. As she turns to leave, he asks, "It's work time, where are you going?" "Our task is to guard the escape route." Suddenly, his gaze freezes at the scene ahead. Karina is assassinating someone below. Saga panics and jumps down to stop her, but she calmly says the man was a mercenary hired by nobles, so she must kill him. Saga sternly reminds her not to overstep the mission is to kill the royals. Karina snaps back sharply, mocking that he has no right to speak after once trying to kill her. Saga is speechless, unable to reply. She steps closer, voice icy, saying losing the target was his fault, then asks if he's sure the real mission is royal assassination. She reasons that if the goal was to destroy the royals, spies in the palace would suffice, no need to scatter assassins everywhere. Karina lists in detail the districts from commoners to slums she has observed. She questions why they would attack in broad daylight before crowds. She concludes it's not assassination but massacre, her mind flashing bloody memories of killing as many as possible. Saga growls that she's jumping to baseless conclusions. Karina sneers, calling him a naive child living by his father's will. She hands him a note, saying it's an order she stole from his own comrades. Then with a sly smile, she asks if his order also includes the words "Day of Massacre." Staring at the words, Saga freezes in shock, speechless. Karina smirks, teasing if it hurts. She turns coldly away, saying his father is deceiving him and plotting to seize the throne. Saga stands stunned as she quietly says, "I'm leaving." Scene shifts, Karina draws her sword, ready to strike. The nobles, unaware, continue discussing their plan to kill William to cover their crimes, while Karina listens to the entire plot in the dark. Hearing the name, Karina simply smiles silently, leaving the rest to them. The brown-haired man whistles casually, urging them to move faster. Elsewhere, a man clutches his stomach, saying he needs the restroom because the food was bad. The king looks around, wondering why everyone is late, and a guard reminds him of the schedule. Another soldier orders the man escorted to the portable toilet, receiving a reply of consent. He frowns, wondering if the cook used spoiled ingredients. Grumbling as he walks, he complains the restroom is too far. Red Eye comments that secluded places are more convenient. The man agrees. Suddenly, someone rushes in to attack the brown-haired man, is chained by the neck, turning purple, while the red-faced man remains oblivious. A voice shouts that bandits came for revenge and calls for William to come down. They declare they've captured nobles and demand William appear or the hostages will die. The gray-haired man chimes in, claiming he escaped to report the nobles trapped in a cave. A knight yells, urging William to fight like the time he slew 100 foes. William looks at the captain nervously as faint cries for help echo nearby. The brown-haired man trembles, stammering in fear, drenched in cold sweat. Another shouts, calling the scene a clumsy performance. The actors look embarrassed, their poor acting making others want to wipe them out. The knight captain realizes the noble's plot, but knows drawing real swords is too risky. The crowd murmurs below, thinking it's all part of the festival. The captain tells William not to interfere since the BH unit will handle it. The king, enraged, demands to know who dares mock them, frightening the red-haired men. Karina sighs, blaming herself for following William. She decides to act while the brown-haired man still stands clueless. Karina suddenly strikes right beside him. The brown-haired man freezes in terror, not understanding what's happening. He screams, curses, and laughs like a madman. Karina coldly points her sword, forcing them to choose. Call William or die. William stands still, watching everything unfold. The laughing man only smirks silently, his thoughts unreadable. Karina smiles cruelly, declaring the bloody feast has begun. Red Eye confirms the chaos has started, ordering to kill all and begin the massacre. Karina gazes distantly straight at William. William meets her stare with an icy expression. In his memory, the nightmare returns 3 heads fall, belonging to his family, leaving him paralyzed. Karina declares firmly that her revenge means erasing the entire bloodline. He admits he's tormented daily because she's still free. Every night he wakes in panic, checking if his loved ones are safe. He tries to calm himself, pushing to grow stronger each day. Exhausted, he still shouts, "Happy? Let's start again!" In the present, William draws his sword. Renshu exhales in relief that his opponent isn't kin. The knight captain advises the king to retreat for safety. The king refuses, saying even if he flees, deaths will follow, so hell face it. He smiles, hoping his choice is right, while the captain looks at William in confusion. Seeing William stride forward confidently, he suspects the man had prepared all along. He recalls once calling William's stubbornness childish, but now sees it as courage. The blonde boy freezes upon seeing the smiling man standing beside his mother. Karina hesitates, unsure what's happening. She suddenly steps forward and slices off a lock of the brown-haired man's hair. Karina raises her hand and threatens that if William takes another step, she'll behead all the nobles. The brown-haired man panics, screaming for mercy, but is immediately punched down. He stares blankly, unable to believe what just happened. A cloaked man coldly orders him to shut up and watch closely. He leans in, whispering that the stage play has turned real. Then he says bluntly their lives are now in danger, so they must perform an actual kidnapping. The three nobles gape in horror at the sight. The gray-haired man worries, telling his ally things are worsening and William might die. He turns to question the nobles why they hired real bandits, but they stammer in confusion. Sweat pours down the noble's face as he panics, unable to grasp the situation. Another knight quietly orders his men to follow him to secretly rescue the captured nobles. The group quietly follows the gray-clad man, while he wonders if this choice is right. The blonde places a hand on the smiling man's shoulder, softly urging Happy not to fight. He sternly reminds him that if nobles die because of him, the burden won't be his alone. William turns back, firmly assuring Happy he will win. The smiling one falls silent in thought. He observes and inwardly admits William's skills have greatly improved. However, he notices William trembling, paralyzed by fear of a stronger foe. Karina laughs mockingly, comparing William to a scared puppy. She continues to taunt him, saying he's too deep in his fake hero act. William roars in rage, vowing to kill her immediately. Karina smirks, mocking that the Knight Order sure trains wild dogs well. She raises her sword, saying she's ready to play with him. Instantly, William charges forward with a swift counterattack. Karina remains calm, watching his every movement. William strikes continuously while she only dodges and parries. He shifts his attack upward for a counterblow. Karina seizes the moment to counter, landing a hit. William staggers back, mind blank. But right after, he regains spirit and rushes straight toward her. They finally clash head-on, swords meeting. The first strike is blocked, and he immediately devises another move. Karina smiles slightly, saying, "No time to think, right?" William hastily switches to defense. Karina softly tells him to dodge sideways. William hesitates, not understanding her meaning. Immediately, Karina delivers a sudden slash. Seeing the blood, she calmly says that without her warning, he'd be dead. William looks up, eyes full of frustration. The smiling one watches the tense fight seriously. Their blades clash with a screech of metal. William grits his teeth, enduring the fierce blows. Karina smiles proudly as if enjoying the game. William tries to retaliate but then freezes, staring blankly at the scene. He looks up at the sky, his eyes losing hope. William realizes all his skills are useless, she could kill him anytime. Karina brushes her hair, mocking that he's still just a trembling dog. She steps closer as he stands motionless. Karina raises her sword, softly saying, "Don't worry, I'm not killing yet." On the other side, the blonde shouts to counter, but the smiling one had already charged forward. Karina sharply orders William to attack. The smiling one grins wickedly, rushing toward the stands. William's mask of fear falls away, revealing determined eyes. He suddenly counterattacks, catching Karina off guard. The blow sends Karina flying backward. The gray-clad noble darkens, coldly saying even fear was part of the plan. Karina lies fallen, blood covering her hands as the crowd chants William's name. She stares in disbelief at what just happened. Karina reflects on how the once fearful man dared to strike back, recalling the proud ones who fell on battlefields. Her eyes gleam with understanding, admitting that only in life or death moments does true opportunity appear. The smiling one approaches, gaze deep enough to pierce William. Karina lifts her head and sighs beneath the gray sky. The cloaked men shout in chaos. The brown-haired man struggles, begging for help, while another admits they only followed orders, not real bandits. The nobles panic, urging the king to kill all rebels, saying honor means nothing to them. The cloaked man, enraged, accuses the nobles of ordering William's execution and now denying the pact. The enraged noble shouted that it was all a deceitful conspiracy. Amid chaos, the brown-haired girl cried as the king noticed and asked what was happening. The knight captain solemnly reported something extremely unusual. He stated that all officials and royals hadn't returned. Even the princess was missing. The king turned pale, sensing impending doom. He muttered, "Could they have—" The captain panicked, ordering a full search. A knight reported they went to rescue captured nobles, terrifying him. He urgently commanded the troops to return, fearing disaster. Scene shifts as a white dove flies over the ruined platform. It suddenly noticed something strange in the distance. In a cave, a faint human figure walked slowly. A knight shouted, asking if the commander was okay. Seeing the figure near, he curiously called the commander's name. When he saw clearly he froze, only one person survived. He rushed over, asking anxiously who was hurt and what happened. The commander gloomily said the bandits were innocent, it was another scheme. The knight trembled, wondering how the enemy could be so many and kill them all. The commander replied that everyone fled, urging to return and warn of danger. They both rode off in panic. A female voice called out William. She softly warned that the real disaster was near, and none here would survive. William looked puzzled, not understanding her words. Karina, sweating and in pain, said she saved him out of affection. William stared seriously and asked if anyone else was involved. She smiled down, saying the exiled bandits were all wiped out. She revealed the arena was destroyed, bandits driven away, and a ghost appeared. She said the current chaos was only a small beginning, further confusing William. Karina coldly declared that the era of slaughter had begun. Elsewhere, the knight captain asked a soldier if contact with the commander was made. Suddenly, the soldier turned and attacked him, while Karina foretold the king's death. The captain desperately protected the king amid the chaos. He even lost both arms shielding the monarch. Karina smirked, saying all would die. William glared while the smiling man looked confused. The crowd screamed wildly as madness spread. A father shouted for everyone to take up arms. At that moment, a man charged, shocking William as screams erupted. Cries for help echoed as civilians were mercilessly slaughtered. A deep male voice called William's name amid the bloodbath. The white-haired man shouted for William to beware there was a traitor. People begged for rescue, but the guide was stabbed dead on the spot. The culprit looked up, proclaiming this was the dawn of a new era. The smiling man froze at the carnage, his gaze drawn elsewhere. There, Winnie and her family were fighting off attackers. He immediately rushed to aid them. Karina lay on the ground, weakly urging William to flee. A cloaked man nearly touched Ellie, who clung to her kin in fear. The smiling man appeared in time, punching the attacker down. Before he could breathe, another struck. Winnie threw herself in to shield him. Before the enemy could touch her, William appeared and delivered a fatal blow. Winnie's family was finally safe. The knight captain carried the king, urging him to stay conscious. Suddenly, a steel chain appeared, blocking his path. The chain wrapped tightly around his arm, rendering him helpless. He saw the red-eyed man binding him, who coldly declared the kingdom had fallen. The stubborn captain turned away, refusing to reply. He looked toward the burning buildings amid black smoke. He faced the assassins and charged bravely into his final battle. At last, he realized the true nature of this attack. It wasn't just a small group of killers. Many hidden rebels had gone unnoticed. Red Eyes replied fanatically that they were united by shared faith. He loudly proclaimed they remained loyal to the destined day. A dying man muttered that the day would come to stain the Holy Land with royal blood. The king looked thoughtful, shocking the captain. The king calmly explained he knew they belonged to an ancient cult from the war era. Long before the Knights existed, the cult worshipped a dark entity that appeared during chaos, believing it would end wars and restore order. That being was so powerful it was called the demon, seen as the will of God. When empires allied against it, the demon vanished. The knight who fought it was exiled, blamed for losing to evil. The captain wondered why the king now believed what he once denied. The king shook his head, saying he believed after hearing a squad of knights was slain by one man, fearing the demon's return, he exiled the survivor and branded him a liar to hide the truth. He bowed in regret, voice heavy. He confessed the demon's truth was forbidden, known only to the king and pope. He ordered a fortress built and all related killed, thinking he protected the realm. But that act made the kingdom a sacrificial target for the cult's summoning. The seeds of evil sown since the war had secretly grown through peace. Hearing this, Saga fell silent, deeply shaken. He realized the Mad King was actually a man yearning for peace, unlike the rumors. He thought that demon worshippers like himself were the true sinners. Saga looked up, realizing what he believed as divine judgment was just a demon-summoning ritual, wondering if his father knew and hid the truth. Red Eyes ordered Saga to go to the castle where the high priest awaited. He said the day wanted Saga to witness and accept the cult. He urged him to go while they stayed to slaughter the remnants. Saga stared into the distance silently. He bowed his head in heavy thought, reluctantly walking toward the castle to meet the priest. He walked away slowly, leaving behind the cries of massacre. In his mind flashed Winnie's smiling face bringing him food, making him pause. Then he recalled the iron old man who said the gift would protect him from corpses. Saga stepped on a skull, gripping the talisman tightly as the priest's voice echoed. Declaring this his initiation, he entered the dark tower where the priest awaited. He bowed his head and entered, closing the door in silence. Saga dared not look directly, asking if his father's ideal world was this bloody chaos. The priest descended, affirming that everything, even his submission, was fate. That made Saga realize all his doubts were true, he whispered. He asked bluntly if this was truly a cult worshipping the demon. The priest answered plainly yes, then asked how he felt knowing the truth. Saga shut his eyes, admitting he couldn't face this reality. He sighed, saying that even if his father achieved his wish, he still couldn't grasp the believer's true power. The priest comforted him, saying greater things awaited, then asked why he trembled. Saga said corpses were pounding beyond the door. He heard the booming knocks as if breaking through, making the priest fall silent, staring at the door. The priest said the talisman blocked the undead but assured nothing was there, telling him to destroy it. Saga refused, fearing they'd pour in. The priest concluded Saga was weak, deluded by fear. He suddenly snatched the amulet from Saga's neck. Then he threw it down, crushed it, and told Saga to look only silence remains for the dead. Saga obeyed and turned around. He saw the door burst open as black liquid and vile corpses flooded in. Saga Jun screamed in terror at the undead. The corpses lunged, attacking both of them. The priest panicked, covering his face, sensing something wrong. He stood stunned, not understanding what was happening. Then he stared at the newcomer. That man gripped a chain, radiating murderous intent at the priest. Saga and the priest were both shocked, unable to believe it. The smiling man calmly said he was tired of killing and didn't want to be a monster. He chose to fight without killing. Hearing that, Saga was moved, eyes wet. He recalled countless brutal battles in the arena. Their bruised bodies bore no cuts, leaving him puzzled by that fighting style. Even in the bandit raid, none were killed, everyone was spared. Saga remembered his father's words but remained confused. He still couldn't understand why the smiling man chose mercy in a death match. As if reading him, the man repeated that he didn't want to become a monster. Saga was even more astonished by that conviction. The smiling man shouted, accusing them of being demons who slaughtered all. Saga froze, unable to believe they had massacred everyone. The cultists crowded the arena. Even along the forest road to the kingdom, armed cultists filled the path he'd passed after the chaos. Soon after, the smiling man arrived there. He had caught up just on foot, which baffled Saga. The priest calmed himself, drawing his sword and mocking him as arrogant and deceitful. The smiling man laughed madly, face twisted with excitement. He tightened his chain and began spinning it violently. The whirling chain grew faster, directly provoking the priest. The priest calmly scolded him for using a stolen weapon. Ignoring it, the smiling man attacked at once. The priest sneered at the flying metal, calling the weapon worthless. He easily deflected the chain with his small sword, mocking his foe's stupidity. The smiling man was shocked his strike was blocked so easily. The priest countered, drawing a dagger and throwing it at him. The priest dismissed the smiling man's power, but he skillfully blocked the dagger with a chain link. Taking advantage of the opening, he lashed the chain in a fierce counterattack. The blow sent the priest flying, while Saga narrowly dodged. The smiling man rushed forward, continuing his relentless assault. He swung the chain while reaching into his pocket to ready another move. A gentle smile flickered across his face as he threw something. It was the dagger hurled back toward the priest. A short hiss rang out, then everything froze. Blood sprayed from the priest's face, a long cut appearing. The smiling man retrieved the chain into his hand. His smile remained, but his eyes were utterly cold. The priest wavered, both fearful and shocked by his skill. He asked in confusion who his opponent really was. The smiling man coldly replied that words no longer mattered. He gave a curt order. "Fight!" And his face twisted grotesquely. His visage morphed into that of an old man, triggering the priest's memory of kneeling long ago. His expression turned bizarre smiles and fury coexisted. The priest froze, mind-bound by terror. He looked at the young man as if beholding a descended deity. His mind sank into fear and doubt as old reverence resurfaced. He knelt, arms outstretched, offering himself in delirium. The smiling man seized the chance, wrapping the chain around his foe. The priest quickly reacted, gripping the chain tightly. He yanked hard, stepping back to seize control. The sudden move made the smiling man falter briefly. The priest mocked coldly, saying he had chained himself to a beast. The words stunned the smiling man, unbelievable to him. The priest struck with his sword, but the blow was dodged. The smiling man countered with a dagger. Their fierce clash rang through the room. The priest kept thrusting straight, but each strike was deftly parried by the small dagger. Even as he accelerated to force an opening, he couldn't break the smiling man's defense. Time passed as they remained locked in combat. Their blades pressed together, frozen in tense balance. The battle shifted. The smiling man noticed he had moved closer, with more chains coiling around them. A sense of unease rose each time the fight changed, their gazes locking. He felt as if facing many different foes within one body. Saga, watching, saw the smiling man's aura and gestures constantly shift, like countless souls battling inside him. He shouted to his father, claiming corpses were hidden among them, but the priest coldly denied it, calling Saga delusional. The smiling man smirked mockingly, as if seeing through blind faith. He said, "Those who believe in corpses make corpses real, just as those who believe in gods make gods exist." Saga froze, unable to grasp the deeper meaning. The smiling man continued, saying he remembered every foe from each fight to understand humanity in the arena. The memories of battle haunted him nightly, even in dreams. He felt the souls of his past opponents still moving within his body. Thus, he had never forgotten anyone, and now the priest too was bound among them.